If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 1, Good Luck, Summoner. Logan, this is my last warning to you. If you still can't pay back what you owe, then get ready to fight for our blinding gang. I really don't have the time to keep dragging this out with you anymore. How many times have I given you more time already? Getting up from the hard plank bed, Logan rubbed his head and squinted blearily toward the front, only to hear the tall, skinny man in front of him still talking non-stop. We grew up together, yet. But money is money, and friends are friends. That's all I'm going to say, Logan. Think it through. The man paused. His tone stopped being sharp and turned a little sorrowful as he continued, Logan, the days that used to belong to us in the lanes are over. Joining them, it's nothing. Everyone's just trying to survive. The lanes aren't the lanes anymore. After saying that, he didn't wait for Logan to respond. He turned, took 2 steps, and pushed open the door. But before leaving, he tossed a pouch onto the table with a clinking jingle. Logan finally shook himself out of the dizzy haze. Rubbing his throbbing temples, he lifted his head and stared around at the surroundings in confusion. A small tin shack just a few square meters at most. Aside from a plank bed and a small table, plus a few pieces of clothing laid on top of it, there was nothing else in the room to be found. Zaun. Marson, the blinding gang. His memories gradually sharpened, and the migraine-like pain receded. As the memories surged up, Logan's mouth slowly fell open. You've gotta be kidding me. I'm in Zaun? Up there is Piltover? This is Runeterra. He shot up from the bed in one swift motion. Logan lowered his head and stared at his own hands. I was at home playing Riven. How is this even possible? Transmigration. I transmigrated into Runeterra. And I fucking transmigrated into Zaun. The curse slipped out before he could stop it. Logan couldn't keep his emotions in check. As he finished absorbing the memories, Logan gained a completely new understanding of what real Zaun was. This wasn't the kind of trash talk people joked about online, laughing and swearing, bragging I'm from Zaun, like some kind of yo mama killer. Real Zaun, especially in this period, was so dangerous and chaotic that Logan couldn't think of any other words to describe it. No, maybe calling it hell wouldn't be wrong either. At the very least, to a young man raised to develop morally, intellectually and physically in all aspects, life in Zaun was fucking inhuman. This place was an abyss. A bottomless abyss. And once you fell in, almost nobody ever climbed out. But very quickly, Logan showed an absurd level of adaptability. He picked up the pouch Marson had left behind and opened it. Inside was a small bag of coins, not much, but enough to keep him going for the next few days. Marson. Logan's expression turned complicated. Thinking back to what Marson had said earlier, Logan couldn't help feeling a little emotional. The original Logan had even hated Marson, thinking he'd betrayed their ideals and forgotten Lord Vander. But in reality, Marson had already done more than enough. Because if it weren't for Marson, Logan would have been grabbed long ago by those blinding gang bastards and thrown into the sump to pick through garbage. Unless you had absolutely no other choice, no one wanted to become a sump scavenger. Wastewater flowing down from Piltover flooded Zaun's underground world. The poisonous fumes from metal discharge and industrial runoff. If you didn't have protective gear, it could kill you in minutes. Ha! Logan pushed the door open and stepped outside. Where he lived was a big rack of tin sheet housing his shack and countless other broken rooms all jammed into a single alley. Holding onto a handrail coated in rust, he descended an iron staircase that felt unstable, each step letting out a screechy groan under his weight. He walked out of the alley. And then he saw Zaun. The grey-green smog was choking and foul. Logan couldn't help holding his breath. If not for the flickering neon lights, he could hardly imagine being able to see the road ahead under conditions like this. Not to mention, there were tiny metallic particles mixed into that smog. When the air got drawn into your lungs, it came with a scorching sensation that was hard to endure. How the hell did Zaunites survive in an environment like this? Did they all evolve a second pair of lungs or something? The thought flashed through Logan's mind. But right now, what he needed to think about even more was how to make money. Just like Marson said, this was the last time. If Logan still couldn't pay back the gang's money, only 2 roads awaited him: either become a sump scavenger by choice, or become the kind of broken corpse scraps sump scavengers picked up after a fighter lost in the pits. Taking a deep breath, the transmigrator Logan followed the memories in his head and tried to find a temporary job in Zaun. Night fell. Zaun's streets grew even more chaotic. Ever since Vander in the lanes died, the entire lanes had completely plunged into madness. Silco took over this place, bringing all kinds of nightlife culture with him. But that nightlife culture didn't push the lanes in a better direction, it only made it more chaotic. On the street, you could see drug addicts getting high. You could also see old drunks thrown out of bars getting groped on the roadside by a pack of punks. Beneath flashing neon signs, women dressed in gaudy, provocative outfits shouted loudly at passers-by to lure them in. Logan walked home through a street like that. No locks. No keys. Just leave the door wide open. If you locked it, you'd become a target for the gangs. But if you left it open, welcoming them to come in and rummage around, it killed their interest instead. After all, there was nothing worth stealing in the first place. That was life in Zaun. Logan lay back on the plank bed, staring blankly. His adaptability really was terrifying. It took him less than half a day to accept all of this. Even so, Logan still felt uneasy. The identity of being a transmigrator and knowing bits and pieces of the future didn't help him at all. In Zaun, fists and money did the talking. It was a place ruled by violence and chaos. Wisdom and technology were things that struggled to take root and grow. Could he really survive in a place like this? After an entire day, Logan still couldn't find any suitable work. Zaun no longer had stable jobs. Violence had taken over everything. Industry was beginning to fall behind. Everything was sliding back toward barbarism. The timeline Logan had transmigrated into was the War of the Two Cities, what the designers had openly stated was the main world timeline. He'd arrived a few years after Vander's death, in the era when Silco had formally taken control of the lanes and begun to take over Zaun completely. As for what would happen in the future, it would be an all-out war between Piltover and Zaun. Anyway, Logan remembered the end of Season 1, Jinx fired a rocket. That much was enough. What awaited Zaun could only be Piltover's insane retaliation. Retaliation from Piltover, there was no way Zaun could withstand that. Not a chance. High-tech versus cold steel. The rich versus the poor. Thinking about it, Logan truly couldn't imagine how Zaun was supposed to win this war. Maybe I should run early. Run to Demacia. If you had to name which country in Runeterra treated ordinary people the best, it could only be Demacia. Strong national power, and it wouldn't squeeze the bottom layer of society dry. Sure, commoners had little upward mobility there, but at least you wouldn't be forced into becoming cannon fodder and thrown onto a battlefield to die, right? Logan knew his own limits. He honestly didn't know how an ordinary person like him, armed only with some champion stories he'd read online and a little knowledge of future developments, was supposed to stay alive in this chaotic, dangerous world. As he thought about it, sleepiness gradually crept over him. Lying on the bed, Logan closed his eyes. He wished more than anything that when he woke up, he'd find that everything he experienced today had just been a dream. He fell asleep. And in the middle of his sleep, Logan faintly heard some blurry sounds. Those sounds gradually grew louder, until they became clear. Game loading. Spirit Blossom game loaded successfully. Entering Spirit Blossom. Entry successful. Good luck, Summoner. Chapter 2, Purple Prison Mountain. The ethereal voice jolted Logan awake. He sat up only to realize he was lying beneath a blue sky. A blue sky, something Zaun's kids would never see in their entire lives. Children who grew up deep in Zaun's fissures only ever saw massive metal pipelines overhead and all kinds of clanging, roaring mechanical tanks. As for sneaking into the topside and seeing the sky up there, that wasn't Zaun's sky. Logan looked around, completely stunned. The ground here was pure white, the sky a vivid blue. In front of where he'd sat up stood a gigantic curtain of light. Along its edges were strange ink-wash patterns of bizarre beasts. Logan couldn't tell what animal they were. He looked elsewhere on the light screen, and what he saw was endless white mist, like it was concealing something on the other side. This. Logan rubbed his eyes, pinched the back of his hand, and felt real pain. He stood up, and a thought rose naturally. A cheat. Logan's adaptability kicked in at full power, and joy flashed across his face. Getting transmigrated to a hellhole like Runeterra without some kind of cheat would be ridiculous. But Spirit Blossom? Wasn't Spirit Blossom just a skin universe? No, wait. If you really got into the details, Spirit Blossom wasn't exactly just a skin universe. More accurately, it was like a subworld of Runeterra. If Runeterra was the physical realm, then Spirit Blossom was the spirit realm. Wasn't Yon's story the perfect example? Calming down, Logan walked up to the light screen and reached out to touch it. Pop! His hand passed through it, like poking through a bubble. The light screen dissolved, revealing a huge canvas in front of him. White mist covered most of it, but he could still see large black question marks scattered across it. At the same time, something appeared in Logan's mind. Name, Logan. Race, selectable, human soul/spirit monster/undead demon. Soul strength, 2, scattered soul. World exploration, 0. Current items, none. Logan raised his hand and tapped human soul. Even now, he still didn't understand what this cheat actually was. Dropping into the spirit blossom world, what was the point? Could it make him stronger? But the problem was, could his physical self get stronger? If he only got stronger in the spirit realm, then how was that any different from playing a game? Sure, having a game to play sounded great. In a place like the Twin Cities, gaming was a good way to kill time. But the question was now really the time to play a game? Race confirmed, human soul. Since map exploration is 0, the first descent will be a random scene. Descend. Yes/no. Descent attempts, 3/3. Logan tapped nervously. In the next instant, the hand he'd placed on the canvas felt a powerful suction force. With a roaring spiral of air, the white ground, the blue sky, the entire small world, along with Logan, was dragged into the canvas. Light and shadow scattered. His feet hit solid ground. Logan looked at the world in front of him, and his pupils contracted. He couldn't see the sky, towering purple trees blotted it out overhead. He couldn't see far ahead either. Wild grass grew to waist height, making it hard to make out the road. But the purple that filled his vision told Logan one thing. He'd randomly landed somewhere very dangerous. In Spirit Blossom's worldview, spirits were divided into two factions, the tranquil Kenmei and the chaotic Arcana. And right now, he'd obviously arrived on Arcana territory. Because purple was Arcana's dominant color. Heroes of the Arcana faction, Thresh foremost among them, were all cast in dark violet. Inside his head, the ethereal voice sounded again. Summoner, based on your soul strength, this descent time is 30 minutes. Map discovered: Purple Prison Mountain. Map exploration, 0.01%. Exploration rewards accumulating. Good luck, Summoner Logan. Exploration. Rewards. Those two keywords instantly eased the tight knot in Logan's chest. With Runeterra's mysterious supernatural forces involved, Logan had no reason to believe these rewards couldn't be brought back into the physical realm. And if that was true, then whether he ended up as a pile of corpse scraps in the sump would depend entirely on whether this cheat actually delivered. With that thought, Logan started exploring. But in a place with no sense of direction, waist-high weeds and trees like an endless sea, moving was brutally difficult. Like a headless fly, Logan pushed forward stubbornly, forcing his way ahead. Watching the descent timer count down, Logan realized he'd been walking for 13 minutes, but the scenery around him stayed exactly the same. The exploration percentage hadn't increased either. Irritation started to creep in. And then, right as he was thinking that, a gust of wind carrying a sharp, nauseating stench blew through. Logan turned around instinctively. He blinked. And there, facing away from him, stood a body wearing the same kind of tattered Zaun clothes he had on. The difference was, that body had no head. Hey, wait! That looks like me, doesn't it? Logan blinked again, the thought flashing through his mind. And the next second, his vision went dark. Logan lost consciousness. Detected a living entity in Purple Prison Mountain. Relevant codex has been unlocked. Purple Prison Mountain exploration value +3. Purple Prison Mountain registered as descent point number 1. Accumulated rewards being issued, obtained reward soul points +0.3. Fuck. With a furious curse, Logan snapped awake back in the Spirit Blossom space again. Blue sky, white ground. The huge canvas stood in front of him, now showing the data from his descent. Logan stood up, walked to the canvas, and studied it for a moment before tapping Purple Prison Mountain Codex. In the next instant, the canvas shifted. A 9 grid appeared. In the first row, third column, a purple beast something like a hedgehog appeared on the canvas, lifelike and vivid, looking top-heavy and awkward. Arcana beast. Race, Spirit Fae. Soul strength, 15, scattered soul. Danger level, low. Description, lost souls that cannot find their way home wander the purple prison woods for ages. Without a guide, they gradually forget themselves, becoming mindless drifting spirits of purple prison mountain, and eventually turning into mountain sprites. That thing killed me. Logan stared at the purple hedgehog-like creature, his scalp tingling. Arcana beast, so he really had landed on Arcana territory. Then Logan noticed the text beneath the codex entry green letters, activate. He pressed it. Lit purple prison mountain codex 3. Gain strength plus 3. Logan blinked. Strength. On his status panel, it only displayed soul strength, so what exactly was this strength? Closing the codex, Logan looked at his personal stats again, only to find that his soul strength had become 2.5. The exploration reward only added 0.3 soul points. So did the extra 0.2 come from activating the codex? Did soul strength equal combat power? Logan clenched his fist, but he didn't feel any obvious change in his body. After thinking for a bit, Logan reached out and tapped the canvas again. The white mist on the canvas stirred. One black question mark dissolved, and what appeared in its place was a mountain. Logan looked at it, and his mouth twitched. Purple Prison Mountain. On the canvas, purple trees blotted out the sky, and dim violet clouds curled around the mountain. The reason Logan's mouth twitched was because the vague outline of this mountain instantly made him think of someone. Behind Purple Prison Mountain, there was a black silhouette. That shadow had a pair of curved, long horns. The figure was tall, its face and clothing impossible to make out, but Logan could vaguely see something in its hand, like a lantern. Ah! Who else could that be? Chapter 3, Thresh. Holding a lantern, with a pair of demon-like curved horns, tall and imposing, who else could that be? It could only be Thresh. How should I put it? Spirit Blossom Thresh and Shadow Isles Thresh are basically two different people, independent individuals. The physical realm and the spirit realm do affect each other, sure, but that doesn't mean the heroes in Spirit Blossom are the incarnations of the heroes in Runeterra. Their relationship to the Runeterra champions is strange, something you can't explain clearly in just a few lines. There is a connection, but it isn't that direct or that deep. In a certain sense, the heroes of Spirit Blossom are all a kind of obsession, bizarre existences born from Ionian folklore and ghost stories passed down among the people. That's why, in the stories, they appeared before the heroes of Runeterra ever did. They're mythic figures from old legends, not the after-death forms of Runeterra's champions. Take the Arcana exile, Riven. Her connection to Runeterra's Riven beyond the same appearance is an obsession she can't let go of, and guilt and regret carved into the depths of her soul, impossible to discard. So even though they exist on the same planet and it isn't a skin universe, you still can't just treat them as the heroes, right? The heroes of Spirit Blossom are unique. They have nothing to do with the main universe, and yet they truly appear within the main universe all the same. Logan rubbed his cheek, feeling like the more he dug into it, the more complicated it became. Because in the end, was it the physical realm influencing the spirit realm, or was it the spirit realm influencing the physical world? Forget it. That's not what I should be thinking about right now. He patted his cheeks, then reached out and touched the inkwash scroll. What I should be thinking about is how to escape the blinding gang's threat. Pressing the descent button, Logan vanished from the Spirit Blossom space. Successfully descended to Purple Prison Mountain. This descent time is 30 minutes. Good luck, Summoner. Whoosh. The light screen scattered. The familiar purple forest sea reappeared before his eyes. Logan looked around. The scene still felt familiar, but the towering purple woods made it impossible for him to tell where he was. And the fact that dying on his first descent hadn't carried any punishment made him feel a lot more at ease. No penalty on death. Discover a creature to activate the codex and increase exploration value. Raise his stats and get stronger. This was amazing. Calling it a no difficulty cheat wouldn't even be an exaggeration. It was just this descent attempt limit. Logan thought about it and decided it probably wouldn't be a real problem. There had to be a way to replenish descent attempts. As for whether it would be hard or not right now, besides choosing to descend, did he even have any other choice? Picking a direction at random, Logan walked forward. Unlike the cautiousness of the first time, Logan even deliberately made noise, hoping to attract the attention of the living things in Purple Prison Mountain. Just meeting them was enough to activate the codex. How great was that? After pushing through the forest sea for about 5 minutes, Logan came across a patch of purple bamboo hidden within the woods. In the center of it was a dim green lake. Discovered purple bamboo forest. Exploration value accumulating. Discovered Moonwatch Lake. Exploration value accumulating. That counts too. Blinking, Logan looked a little dazed. So it wasn't only discovering living things that increased exploration value, even locations counted? He started walking forward, then suddenly stopped. Because something moved by the lake. Narrowing his eyes, Logan took a closer look, then instinctively stepped back. In the bamboo by the water, something shifted again. Logan stared harder, fear rising in his eyes as he retreated 2 more steps without thinking. Hiss! The sound rang out. This massive creature hidden in the purple bamboo forest and almost perfectly blended into the purple bamboo surroundings lifted itself up. It was an absurdly huge snake. Just its upper body, rising upright, was dozens of meters long. Its enormous head was like a house. 2 pairs of blood-red eyes fixed on Logan, and a red-purple tongue flicked in and out incessantly. Gathering his courage, Logan looked to the system. Detected a living entity in Purple Prison Mountain. Relevant codex has been unlocked. Purple Prison Mountain exploration value +8. Rewards accumulating. Not bad. Even if I die, it's worth it. Logan let out a breath. Not bad, at least this descent attempt wouldn't be wasted. Exploration value +8. Way more than what the Arcana beast gave earlier. But thinking about it, that made sense. This thing's body was terrifyingly huge, there was no comparison between it and something like an Arcana beast. Come on. Logan spread his arms, waiting for death to arrive. If possible, he hoped he'd be crushed or smashed to death rather than swallowed whole by this snake. Seeing Logan's provocative posture, the purple giant snake's scarlet eyes flashed. In the next instant, its enormous body became a blur as it charged straight at him. Wonder how much soul points this reward will convert into. Logan muttered quietly. With his naked eye vision, he couldn't even see the snake's movement at all. If not for the sheer noise and impact produced by that colossal body, the moment it vanished, Logan would have thought it had simply disappeared. Arms spread, waiting to die, Logan closed his eyes. But when he opened them again, he realized he hadn't returned to the Spirit Blossom space. Looking forward, Logan's mouth fell open. How interesting. A weak little soul like you, and yet you haven't gotten lost in the purple prison woods. A deep voice sounded. Logan saw the giant snake lower its head to the ground. And on its purple skull sat a man. One leg dangled and kicked lightly, swinging back and forth. The other knee was raised, his elbow resting on it. He wore a gorgeous brocade robe. His chest was open, the muscles there even and well-defined. Long fingers curved as they propped up his chin. On his handsome face was a look of delighted interest as he stared at Logan. Warning! A Purple Prison Mountain deity has been discovered. Escape immediately and avoid them. Inside Logan's mind, the system blared warnings non-stop, urging him to flee as fast as possible. But, flee? Logan's mouth twitched. System, please tell me how exactly am I supposed to flee in front of a deity? This wasn't the Shadow Isles Thresh everyone hunted down, stabbing people in the back from the shadows. This was Spirit Blossom Thresh, an honest-to-God demigod tier existence. And in Spirit Blossom's setting, if nothing unexpected happened, Ari and Thresh were basically the ceiling. Which meant that, even in Runeterra terms, those two would still be ridiculously powerful demigods. Haha. Logan gave a bitter smile. Run? He couldn't even outrun that snake, so how was he supposed to escape in front of Thresh? That was pure fantasy. But at least, when the descent time ended, he'd be able to go back. Just as Logan was thinking that, he heard the system's prompt tone. Warning! The Purple Prison Mountain deity possesses the power to influence the living world. They have locked onto your soul and are extremely interested in you. If you are captured, your soul strength will plummet. If it reaches 0, you will no longer be able to leave the Spirit Blossom world. Summoner, escape immediately. Logan, who had been relaxed just a moment ago, gaped. Hey! Chapter 4, Soul Guide. When you're having a run of bad luck, you can choke on cold water. Logan had that exact feeling right now. What the hell is this supposed to be? Running into Thresh just to activate the codex? Wait. Logan suddenly realized something. Was he really running into Thresh by coincidence? Looking at the Purple Prison Mountain deity staring at him with shining eyes, Logan's mouth twitched twice. And Thresh's next words gave him the answer, wiping away all doubt. Not a wasted trip after all. There's actually a soul like yours in Purple Prison Mountain. You're even more fascinating than the woman I saw last time, the one carrying a broken sword. How did you do it? On his handsome face, those deep, pink eyes brimmed with manic joy. Thresh tilted his head back, closed his eyes, and drew in a long breath. So fragrant, so fragrant. You know that? My very soul is trembling for you. Like a sick, unstable lunatic, Thresh kept his eyes closed, hugged one shoulder with a hand, lifted his chin, and let out a shuddering moan. Lost soul, what exactly are you? The song your soul sings, I've never heard anything like it. Where did you wander here from? You're lost, aren't you? You need help, and I just happen to be able to find you a direction. He opened his eyes and looked straight at Logan. The joy in his gaze had already been stained with madness. These deities and Spirit Blossom existed because of obsession, and Thresh's obsession was seeking, and torment. Main universe Thresh was dangerous enough. Spirit Blossom Thresh was on a whole different level. Under Thresh's gaze, Logan stammered and stared up at him on the snake's head. After a long moment, Logan raised a finger, pointed at his own mouth, and mumbled, mute. Ha ha ha. Thresh laughed loudly. Lost soul, kid, there's no such thing as a mute soul. The moment his voice fell, Thresh vanished from in front of Logan. Then a voice sounded from behind him. HSSS. Breath washed over Logan's neck. He clutched at his throat and spun around, only to find Thresh bent down, face to face with him. Only then did Logan realize Thresh had to be pushing 3 meters tall. They were so close it hurt. Meeting those pink-tinged eyes, Logan felt as if he were standing naked in front of Thresh, except what he felt wasn't shame. It was a terror he couldn't put into words. Those eyes were an abyss, swallowing his soul. Don't be afraid, kid. This isn't true pain. Soul strength is decreasing. Summoner, escape immediately. Escape your ass. If I could escape, I would have run a long time ago. Hearing the system's warning, Logan cursed in his head. This shitty system, was it sure it was trying to help him? Was it a joke? Like he didn't want to run? No, if you're so helpful, then tell me how the hell I'm supposed to run. Let me see what you really are. Your soul, delightful. Beautiful. You're rarer than the trillions upon trillions I've seen. Thresh stuck out his tongue, licked his lips, and reached his long hand toward the top of Logan's head. The hand wasn't fast or slow, but in Logan's eyes, time itself seemed to freeze. What Logan saw was no longer purple bamboo. It was a dim violet lantern, looming behind Thresh. His adaptability really was insane, so insane it was almost offensive. Because in a situation like this, Logan still had the brain power to notice that Thresh's nails were long like beast claws. Is this really what I should be thinking about right now? Just as Thresh's hand was about to touch Logan's head, an ethereal voice rang out. Stop! A flash of white light burst forth. Logan felt his body yanked by another force, dragged backward away from Thresh. But Logan couldn't turn his head, because Thresh's expression had already changed. His face darkened, turning vicious. Behind him, on that huge, antique-looking violet lantern, a pair of eyes opened. Then, starting around 2/3 of the lantern's height, a crack split and spread, forming something like a horrific mouth. Soul strength is decreasing. Soul is being healed. Soul strength is decreasing. Soul is being healed. The system's rapid beeping hammered inside Logan's skull. He threw his head back in agony, trying to scream only to find he couldn't even make a sound. Behind him, white light was pulling at his body. In front of him, violet-black light was pulling at his body. Damn it, you again! Thresh snarled coldly. Long time no see, Thresh. Have you counted how many souls you've collected lately? The ethereal voice was beautiful, and there was a faint, teasing smile in its tone. Get lost. That soul is mine. Nope, guiding lost souls to their path is my duty, Thresh. I'm not handing him over to you. Not happening. How many times are you going to stop me? Until you stop harming these wandering souls, Thresh. The pleasant voice didn't yield an inch. Logan looked at the descent timer, pain twisting his face. 12:10. 00:9. 00:8. As the seconds counted down, Logan waited for the timer to hit 0. What a joke. He'd thought Spirit Blossom was something you could enter casually, and that death came with no punishment or consequences. But now it was obvious that was just Logan being naive. To powerful demigods like these, trapping him inside the Spirit Blossom realm was completely within their ability. He didn't know whether being killed by them would instantly send him back to the Spirit Blossom space, but this was clearly not the time to test it. Logan didn't know who the sudden second deity was, but the white light and the fact that they were opposing Thresh made one thing clear. The one helping him was a Kenmei deity. That was good news. Because they were holding Thresh back. Otherwise, Logan might already be a part of Thresh's lantern. 3. 2. And the descent time reached its final second. This descent has ended. Calculating exploration value. Accumulated rewards being obtained. Bzzz. A strange light suddenly appeared between the gentle white glow and the heavy violet glow. In the next instant, Logan caught between the two forces vanished from the scene. No. With Thresh's furious roar, the two immense powers slammed into each other. Purple Prison Mountain shook. The earth churned. The lake surged and roiled. Fox, you let him get away. Just a little more. Just a little more and I would have succeeded. Thresh's voice twisted into something pained and chaotic. A good thing, Thresh. I don't know how he did it either, but he's so clever. I like him. And this time, I stopped you again. The ethereal voice let out a soft, girlish laugh. Until next time, Thresh. We'd better never meet again. Watching the white light fade, the fox tail shrinking away, Thresh said darkly. He couldn't do a thing to her. In the entire Spirit Blossom realm. No one could do a thing to her. Because she was the guide for lost souls, the savior spirit of this world. And also, his sworn enemy. In the purple bamboo forest, Thresh lowered himself and stared at the small footprints on the ground. He reached out, gently tracing them with his fingers, his nose twitching slightly as he inhaled. I won't let you run, kid. I'll find you. Just a little more. Just a little more. He plunged his hand hard into the earth. Then he lifted it, scooping up the soil where the footprints were stamped. And he poured that dirt into the lantern at his waist. After that, Thresh vanished into the purple bamboo forest. Chapter 5, Pink and Blue Graffiti. Descent complete. Processing descent settlement. Settlement as follows. Discovered a living entity in Purple Prison Mountain, gained exploration value 8. Discovered the special location Moonwatch Lake in Purple Prison Mountain, gained exploration value +6. Discovered the special location Purple Bamboo Forest in Purple Prison Mountain, gained exploration value +5. Discovered a deity of Purple Prison Mountain, activated the special character panel, gained exploration value reward 50. Exploration settlement in progress. You have obtained the following exploration rewards. 1. Soul strength +5. 2. Special character panel unlocked. 3. Obtained 1 random soul. Congratulations, Summoner. In the Spirit Blossom space, Logan took a deep breath and looked at his personal panel. Name, Logan. Race, Human Soul. Soul Strength, 7.3, Scattered Soul. World Exploration, 1%. Current item, Unknown Soul Stone. Logan swung his arms and felt a subtle change in his body. The discomfort in his lungs had eased a lot. As a Zaunite who'd grown up in Zaun since childhood, Logan had never had any chemtech augmentation. He was poor, and he refused to join other gangs, so his physical condition had been awful. Poor Zaun kids were malnourished, Logan was no exception. And Zaun's heavy smog had damaged his respiratory tract. His internal organs had their share of problems too. Normally, whether Logan would even live past 40 was a huge question mark. But now, Logan felt healthy. Was this the effect of soul strength? Did it change his constitution? Logan looked to the corner of the panel. There was an icon like a bag. When he opened it, he found a sky blue stone inside, giving off a faint green glow. It was beautiful. Soul stone, bound. Quality, blue, spirit form. Required level, none. Description: a stone formed from an unknown soul within the Spirit Blossom world, containing mysterious and powerful energy. Logan. Fuck. This is getting more and more like a game. He tapped use, and the next moment he froze in place. His brain took a hit. In an instant, he absorbed countless pieces of knowledge. Used Soul Stone. The Unknown Soul Stone has released its power. Obtained Unknown Soul Memories. Extracted skill from Unknown Soul Memories, Spirit Form Grade Boxing. Congratulations, Summoner. When Logan came back to himself, he clenched his fist. His mind was flooded with knowledge that didn't belong to him. How to make a fist. How to throw a punch. How to breathe. Footwork. Forms. Techniques, strange yet strangely familiar memories collided and churned in his head. He looked at the panel and saw a new line added. Current skill, boxing, spirit form grade / restricted. Spirit form grade, what kind of tier was that? As for restricted, Logan immediately understood. It was nothing more than the fact that his current soul strength couldn't bring out the true effect of the boxing art. He looked again at soul strength, and the words scattered soul after it were glaringly obvious. Logan immediately had a thought, so the next tier after scattered soul might be spirit form grade? Rubbing his head, Logan figured that even if spirit form grade wasn't the next tier, it was definitely related to soul strength. His cheat came from Spirit Blossom, so of course everything had to be understood through Spirit Blossom's worldview. Then Logan looked at the other panel, the one that had been activated after encountering Thresh. On scroll canvas, a heart-shaped icon had appeared off to the side. When he tapped it, he saw a bunch of pitch-black avatars, and one that was lit up in purple. In the frame, Thresh wore an extremely seductive, wicked smile, but his eyes didn't look like the Thresh Logan had seen. They weren't as terrifying, not as sinister. Purple Prison Mountain Deity Thresh. Soul Strength. Personality. Stage, Obsessed. Status, Purple Prison Mountain Deity is searching for you. Seriously? You're still not done? Logan sucked in a cold breath. This Thresh was really a fucking bastard. No, what the hell is this obsessed stage supposed to be? Logan studied it seriously for a while, and then he nearly fainted. Special character favorability was, apparently, a crucial part of his cheat. Because Logan discovered that when a special character's favorability reached certain stages, he could receive sponsorship support corresponding to their abilities. And those stages were divided like this. Encounter, 0. Acquainted, 100. Confidant, 600. Life and Death Bond, 1200. And one locked for male characters, Intimate, 2000. So the question was, what the hell was obsessed? It wasn't displayed in the stage list, yet Thresh was already obsessed with him? Logan really couldn't make sense of it. But aside from that, there was also one hazy avatar frame different from the other pitch-black ones. Logan looked at it and saw the silhouette of a fox sitting upright. Unknown mysterious deity. Soul strength. Personality. Stage, Encounter, 0. Status, excitedly chasing butterflies in Spirit Blossom. Hat. Unknown mysterious deity. I can't even be bothered to roast you. Logan was speechless. He might not know every detail of League's lore, but it wasn't like he knew nothing either. At the very least, he knew what the skins looked like. So the one who saved me earlier was Ari. Logan stroked his chin, curious. Back during the Spirit Blossom Festival event, the League client had even made a special activity, basically a visual novel-style minigame. It included the first batch of Spirit Blossom champions. Logan had collected Ari's, Lilia's, and Kindred's icons and emotes back then. And honestly, Spirit Blossom really was one of Riot's best skin events, so Logan wasn't unfamiliar with Spirit Blossom Ari at all. In that minigame, Ari was adorable. Her tone was playful, her personality lively and bright. Remembering the ethereal voice from earlier, Logan immediately got a clear image in his mind. Long time no see, Thresh. Have you counted how many souls you've collected lately? Yet. It really was nice. Really cute. Fuck, I still haven't claimed all the rewards. Thinking about Ari, Logan suddenly snapped back and quickly opened the codex, then found the purple giant snake. After activating it, Logan received 2 stamina and 2 strength. But after claiming them, he realized his soul strength was still 7.3. That gave Logan a new understanding of soul strength. It wasn't just a number you added up with simple arithmetic. After finishing everything, Logan exited the space. Even though he still had one descent attempt left, Logan decided he wouldn't descend again for a while. After all, Thresh was currently searching all over Spirit Blossom for him. There was no way he could descend into Spirit Blossom in the short term. Alright. Exit. Waking up on his bed, Logan reached for his neck and tugged lightly on the chain. A pocket watch popped out. It had a cute style, and the face was decorated with purple and blue graffiti monsters. Logan opened it and checked the time. Then he realized that time in Spirit Blossom wasn't the same as in the physical realm. He'd spent about 2 hours in Spirit Blossom, but less than 10 minutes had passed in the physical realm. He rolled over and went back to sleep, refusing to think any more. He'd already taken too many shocks today. Early the next morning, Logan got up, took the coin pouch Marson had given him, and headed out. Same as always, he was going to try to find a job in Zaun. Zaun in the morning was a little less chaotic, but the streets of the lanes still had plenty of corpses lying around. There were also a lot of beggars in the alleys, wrapped in rags with a broken bowl placed in front of them. Every so often, a body part would peek out from under the cloth. You could see skin turned purple and wrinkled into a lump, horrifying to look at. Logan forced himself not to look at them and lightly hopped past them. His pace kept getting faster. Logan realized his body really had changed drastically, visibly improved. But, what was the limit? How strong was he? How fast was he? Logan didn't have any accurate reference. So with a shift in thought, Logan decided to find a place with no one around and test his numbers first. He walked through the morning smog, heading to the outskirts of the lanes, toward an abandoned industrial zone. He was genuinely curious about his changes. When Logan returned to the lanes again, it was already close to noon. He came back with an excited expression, and his black hair was a little damp. Insane. Absolutely insane. Am I actually this insane now? Logan felt like it was ridiculous. He'd thought that with soul strength at 7.3, he'd probably just be a bit stronger than an ordinary person. But after that test, Logan could only say he wasn't an ordinary person anymore. Ordinary person? He could take on 10. A person who could crush rocks barehanded. How was that ordinary? Speed, jumping, even reaction time. Logan discovered they'd all increased. With a body like this. Honestly, if he ran into Marson again, Logan felt like letting Marson take him to fight in the pits might actually work. Because pit fighting paid well. Logan found a restaurant in the lanes. With the stinging smell of food and the nasty odor coming off the people around him, he started shoveling food into his mouth. Bloody frog meat and fish meat were mashed together. It was wet and squishy going down, the texture was weird, the taste was awful, but Logan still gulped it down in huge bites. In Zaun, being able to eat something that was still warm was already a good thing, especially since Logan was starving after training. While Logan was eating, a group of people suddenly stormed into the restaurant. The counter attendant in front of Logan saw them and immediately shrank his neck. The boss, who'd been lounging behind the bar huffing a purple spray and visibly floating on whatever it was, also jumped up at once. He hurried over, wearing a flattering smile and lowering his tall body in front of them. Honored guests, honored guests. What wind blew you here? Quit fucking talking. Have you seen this person? The leader, a tattoo-faced man, slammed a piece of paper in front of the boss and demanded loudly. The boss lowered his head, looked at it, and immediately shook it hard. No, no. I've never seen this person. If you see him, notify us. He's important. Yes, yes, got it. Then should I keep this paper and post it in the restaurant? Post your mom. You think he's some wanted criminal? The tattoo-faced man lifted a leg and kicked the boss in the gut. Then he took his people and left. The boss clutched his stomach and spat, then went back behind the bar and took another long pull from the spray. His withered expression changed instantly. He twisted his head and muttered. Fucking animals. Ever since his people came to the lanes, life in the lanes has gotten worse and worse every damn day. This world is getting more and more chaotic. Bastards, seriously. The boss shook his head as he inhaled, talking to himself. Logan finished eating, pulled his hood down, stood up, and quietly left the restaurant. Out on the street, the not-so-large lanes had been flooded by that same group. They were grabbing people everywhere to question them, exactly the same as what they'd asked in the restaurant. Logan pulled his hood lower, reduced his presence, and slipped along the edge like a nobody, leaving. Zaun under Silco was more extreme than under Vander. Under Vander's control, Zaun was poor, but at least it wasn't chaotic. Violence and disorder mostly happened late at night. During the day, hardly anyone dared to cause trouble. But under Silco's Zaun, it really did get richer, except the wealth only belonged to the Chembarons and the strong. The poor got poorer, their living environment grew worse, and you could see thugs smashing and wrecking things even in broad daylight. Shaking his head, Logan left the lanes. Looks like he couldn't find work in the lanes anymore. If possible, he really wanted to smuggle himself to topside. Even if it wasn't topside, the promenade would do, at least that place wasn't as chaotic. Night. After a full day of running around, Logan returned to the lanes. Still keeping his hood low and his presence small, he headed back toward his alley, walking home. Today was another wasted day. Normal jobs for ordinary people in Zaun were basically zero. Even odd jobs were really just doing errands for gangs. There were no real jobs left. Back in the alley, Logan took off his hood and started up the creaking stairs. But after a few steps, Logan froze. Because the stairs in front of him had been painted in strange colors. In the dim light, those fluorescent colors stood out like crazy. Blue and pink blended together, and Logan unconsciously touched his chest. In his coat, the pocket watch had the same colors and the same graffiti style as the stairs. Swallowing, Logan suddenly had a thought. No way. Is it really her? Logan stood there in a daze outside his room. TCH. He couldn't gamble. If it really was her, then he had to stay far away. She was a lunatic. Sure, in the anime and in the game, she was popular as hell, but in real life, who would want to be friends with a crazy person? With that thought, Logan stepped back, ready to leave. But the moment Logan lifted his foot and took one step back, his door was kicked open with a heavy slam. A pale, long leg appeared in front of Logan's shorts, old bandages on the pink-white knee pasted into an X, and boots that clinked loudly. The thick toe was fitted with a metal plate, and with a sharp clack, it stomped onto the floor. If I were you, I'd cover my mouth right now, and then come in nice and obedient. A pleasant, light voice rang out. Logan stepped back again. Under the dim yellow light, a tin pistol painted with colorful graffiti was aimed at Logan's head. She stepped forward 2 paces, and her face came into the light. She wore a tactical crop vest that showed off a pretty, tight stomach. There were plenty of beautiful blue cloud tattoos across her body, but they didn't look messy. Interestingly, she was also a typical Zaun kid, not just from the tattoos, but also from her malnourished, small chest. Under the tight vest, there was only the slightest curve. Damn it, Thresh's chest was way more explosive than hers. On both sides of her body were 2 long blue braids, nearly dragging on the ground. Looking up at her face, Logan saw a small, cute oval face that still hadn't shed its youthful softness. Beneath a pert little nose was a half-smile aimed right at him. Above that nose were a pair of clear, bright blue eyes. Hey! Wait! Blue eyes? Not pink eyes? Logan quietly raised both hands. A greeting slipped out before he could stop it. Powder. Chapter 6, It's Selfish. Click. That was the sound of pressing the switch on the back of the gun. The smile vanished. The girl's expression turned cold. She held the gun in one hand, and with the other hand she touched the gun click, pressing down the button on top. Logan saw that and immediately blurted out, "Wait. It's me, Logan." "Powder, it's me, Logan from the lanes. Did you forget?" "Logan? Don't know you." Powder suddenly smiled. Her blue eyes were dazzling as she looked at Logan, and the fingers painted with pink nail polish pressed the button even deeper. "Let me think, whose lackey you might be. But that doesn't matter. Wait, look, I still have the pocket watch you gave me." Logan was speechless. She hadn't even been altered by Shimmer yet, and she was already this unhinged? What kind of normal person shoots at a stranger? He reached into his chest, pulled out the pocket watch, held it up toward Powder, and shook it twice. The next second, the gun disappeared from in front of Logan. A pale arm stretched out and snatched the pocket watch. Logan caught a scent. Wasn't pleasant, but it wasn't unbearable either. It was Powder's hair. Her small head leaned right up against Logan's chest, and the smell of her hair slid into his nose. Engine oil, mixed with a faint lemon note together, forming a not-so-lovely scent that flooded into Logan's senses. "I remember this." Powder suddenly clapped her hands, looked up at Logan, rose onto her toes, and leaned in close. Her perky little nose twitched as she said with delighted excitement, Logan who fought 6 when you were little, right? I remember you were one of Marson's people. Milo hated you guys the most." All at once she became way more talkative. She circled Logan twice, then shoved him excitedly and shouted, "Inside. Let's talk." "But, this is my house," Logan said. "That's fine. It's not important," Powder replied. She pushed Logan into his own home, hooked the door shut with her foot, then walked up and plopped down on Logan's plank bed like it was her place. She snapped her fingers, and a graffiti-painted little lamp on the table flicked on. She curled herself up, hugged her legs with both arms, and looked at Logan, her expression lively as she said, "Didn't think you'd still be alive." Looking at Powder, no, looking at Jinx, Logan felt complicated. In his memories, Logan and Marson had also grown up in the lanes. Their parents had participated in that uprising under Vander's lead too, and died on that bridge. So Logan and Marson were also Vander's kids. Not like Six and Powder, who Vander kept at his home, but in the lanes, they were still children who grew up under Vander's protection. That was also the biggest reason the original Logan refused to join a gang with Marson and harm the lanes. Deep down, he always remembered that tall, gentle man. Vander was Zaun's spiritual leader. And now Silco had become the one leading Zaun. In the original Logan's heart, that was usurpation. Everything that belonged to Vander had been stolen by Silco. And now, staring at Powder in front of him, Logan's feelings were even more tangled. On one hand, childhood memories were pulling at him. On the other, his impressions from watching the War of the Two Cities were pulling at him too. Jinx was a disaster, a pitiable and hateful figure. But he had to admit it, she had a strange kind of charm. A lot of people said Powder became Jinx because of the environment at the bottom. But there was only one Jinx in Zaun. Logan. Marson. Six. Echo. Who didn't have the same childhood as Jinx. Who could honestly say they grew up in a good environment. What turned Powder into Jinx wasn't the environment. It was love. Zaun or Piltover, plenty of people in the Twin Cities had their own grievances with the world, their own obsession with changing it. 6. Caitlyn, Vander, Silco, Jace, Victor, Heimerdinger, Mel, Sevika, even Zaun's Cambarans, all of them, more or less, had cursed this world and wanted to reshape it. But Jinx? She didn't. From beginning to end, she never complained about the world, never raged at the world. Logan's understanding of Jinx was this: Jinx wasn't dissatisfied with the world. When she was little, she lived carefree. Vander and Six blocked the danger outside for her like knights guarding a princess. Young Powder never worried about survival. She was protected too well by Vander and Six, to the point that a kid raised at the bottom still ended up soft and naive. She didn't care what was right and what was wrong. She didn't care who suffered, who was exploited, who was oppressed, who was persecuted, who died in some alley corner. All she wanted was for the people around her to never leave her ever. To protect her for her whole life. What she wanted was a quiet little life of her own. Even if it meant hurting everything around her, she only cared about herself. It was selfish. And in Logan's eyes, it was hard to put into words. Because it was the kind of thing you couldn't fully explain, couldn't fully untangle. Logan could understand it with an example. Jinx's behavior was like those children who cling to their parents and won't let them leave, convinced their parents should be by their side every single moment. But parents always have to pull away, at least briefly. They need to work. They need responsibilities to friends, to relatives, even to the world around them. But a child can't understand that. In their selfishness, all they do is blame their parents for not staying with them forever. From that angle, Logan could understand how Jinx operated. She was a spoiled, selfish, single-minded madwoman. And that was why Logan had no intention of trying to reason with Jinx. Reasoning with an obsessive madwoman was pointless, just like an adult's logic and a child's logic were never the same thing. Yes. I'm still alive. Logan's thoughts snapped back. He looked at Powder and nodded. It's so good to see you. So where's Marson? What about Noka? Are they still alive too? Powder rocked back and forth, her two long blue braids shifting slightly across Logan's bed. When she was quiet, when she wasn't acting crazy, Logan had to admit she was unbelievably cute. Her pale face wore smoky makeup. The shadows under her eyes and the bloodshot edges around them gave her a mature, shattered look, but her small, doll-like face still preserved a childlike innocence. The contrast hit like a truck. They're still alive. Where are they? What are they doing? They joined a gang. Ha! That's weird. I remember Marson being really timid. How could he join a gang? Powder buried her face into her knees, asking Logan with curiosity. Logan answered, to survive. Chapter 7, Do you want me to live here, or next door to you? From Marson, the conversation drifted to the lanes. Powder asked Logan a lot of things, and Logan answered them one by one. What Logan found strange was that Powder didn't seem all that crazed. Her thoughts were clear, her emotions steady. It wasn't quite like the Jinx Logan had imagined. He looked at Powder, thought for a moment, and simply sat down on the bed too. Powder didn't resist his movement. Instead, she stretched her long legs out, planted both hands behind her on the bed for support, tilted her head, and asked with her lips slightly parted, "Logan, why do you look like you're scared of me?" Logan paused. "Am I?" "Of course. I can tell," Powder replied. She reached out. Logan reflexively lifted his hand to block her, then Powder stopped, shrugged, and leaned back a little with her thin frame, giving him a half smile. "See? You're doing it right now. You're scared of me. This afternoon at the restaurant, I saw a group of people looking for you. Gang people." Powder's expression turned to sudden understanding. She lifted a hand dismissively and flicked it with contempt. "Oh, those are Silco's people. I ran away from home, so of course he'd send people to look for me. What's so weird about that? Are you scared of me because of that?" Logan fell silent and looked at her. Powder let out an exaggerated sigh, scrunched up her little face, and said like she didn't care, "I know what you want to say. But what do you want me to do? Vander's dead. Six doesn't want me anymore. Where else can I go? They were the ones who didn't want me first. What was I supposed to do? Silco's annoying, but he really is good to me. I do jobs for him, he takes care of me. Is that so strange?" Logan shook his head. It wasn't strange. Like he'd already told himself, he couldn't look at her from a normal person's perspective. And with Zaun the way it was now, there weren't many normal people left in the whole city anyway. Powder was just more extreme. Silco was the one who killed Vander. By logic, he should have been Powder's enemy, yet she'd accepted her enemy as a father. But the relationship between Silco and Vander wasn't something you could explain in 1 or 2 sentences either. In short, if you tried to force adult logic onto this girl, the only thing you'd get was your own anger and a bullet from her. Logan looked at Powder, took a deep breath, and asked seriously, "So should I call you Powder, or your new name Jinx?" "Pow no. Jinx." She froze for a second, then burst into loud laughter. One hand pressed to her stomach, the other wiping at the corner of her eye, Jinx laughed with a kind of manic intensity. "Ha ha 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 ha. You even know that?" She giggled breathlessly after the laughter, eyes bright with tears as she stared at Logan. "Yeah, you should. You and the little guy were close too. But I'm curious, why didn't you join the Firelights? Did his group not want you? Wasn't he building some kind of new home?" She kept giggling, wiping her eyes, then said, half laughing, half crying, voice full of delighted emotion, "Call me Jinx, Logan." "And another question." Seeing Logan not respond, Jinx asked, "Can I still live here? If I refuse, what happens?" Logan asked. The meaning was obvious. Jinx opened her mouth, looking cutely shocked. "What kind of question is that? I'm not that crazy. We grew up together. I'm not going to kill you." Then she twirled her little pistol, her foot lightly kicking the bed frame as she swung her long legs. In a tone as casual as someone saying, "If you're thirsty, you drink water," she added, "but I'll move next door instead. It's just a matter of going in and saying hi to that family. Bang boom, and then they'll agree. I don't have anywhere to stay right now. Sevika, that big idiot, is so annoying. You remember Sevika, right? That big idiot is so annoying." Jinx's mouth rattled non-stop as she complained to Logan. Sevika? Of course Logan remembered. A woman who embodied Zaun's will. When Logan first watched Arcane, he hated her for betraying Vander and joining Silco. But the more he watched, the more he realized she had a strong kind of appeal. She wasn't loyal to a person. She was loyal to Zaun. Whoever could lead Zaun to resist Piltover and bring Zaun dignity, that was who Sevika would work for. Someone that pure, that extreme, how could you hate them? Well, Jinx could. I really want to shoot her dead, but I know I can't do that. Silco would be mad. Jinx faced Logan, held both hands in front of her, and curled her index and middle fingers downward like a cute little gesture. Cute, yes. But what she said was anything but. "So," she asked, "how are you going to choose? Do you want me living with you, or living next door?" Jinx asked. She wasn't going to let Logan run. It had been so long. Besides Echo, the little guy Logan was the only person she could still call familiar. If you ran away from home and had nowhere to go, then of course you'd latch onto someone you knew. She was sick. Really sick. With no sense of security, the moment she saw someone familiar, she would cling hard. And the person who could truly heal her illness wasn't Logan. But, why not? Had. Logan sighed, moved by the thought that the neighbor who was supposed to get unlucky would be blessed with such a selfless, saintly neighbor like him. Damn it. That neighbor should have just handed over some money like a decent person. Logan was saving his life, for crying out loud. Just stay here, Logan said. But I only have one bed. No problem. We can sleep together. I'll sleep on the inside, you sleep on the outside. I'm messy when I sleep, I'm scared I'll fall off. Jinx grinned, not caring at all that Logan was a man. Logan scratched his cheek, a little speechless, and then realized there was a tiny, hard to describe flicker of excitement in his chest. Jinx was a lunatic. But she was a very good-looking lunatic. Besides the fact that she was completely flat, she had a long, slender body, and legs so pale they almost looked like they glowed. Zaunites rarely saw sunlight, besides the few with naturally darker skin, most people were pale. And Jinx was the palest of them all. What if Silco comes looking? Logan asked. Hasn't yet, has he? Jinx flopped onto the bed. Her braids spread out on both sides as she spoke lazily. She rolled once on the narrow plank bed, pressed down on the cloth-stuffed pillow, then rested her head on it. She patted the bed, signaling Logan to lie down too. Just like back then when they used to lie out on the rooftop platform, leaning against chem tanks, watching the sky together. Yet, in a certain sense, Logan and Jinx really were childhood friends. Even if Six used to beat up Marson and Logan all the time. Logan hesitated, then lay down but half his body hung off the bed. Don't be so scared. I told you, I won't hurt you. Jinx blinked at him, her eyes bright. You know everything, but, it wasn't like that. I didn't mean to hurt Clagger and Milo. I didn't want that. It was an accident, Logan. It really was an accident. Jinx kept talking, like she was afraid Logan wouldn't believe her, spilling it all out in one breath. I know, Logan said. I believe you. Jinx froze. She blinked. Really? Yet. I believe you. It was an accident, Logan said. You're the first one, who believes me. Jinx said suddenly. Her expression went a little strange, but then she immediately giggled again, wide-eyed, half-manic, chattering a whole pile of nonsense at Logan. Only when the deep night came did her voice finally grow quieter. Under the glow of the graffiti lamp, Logan saw Jinx with her back turned to him, curled up at the very inside edge of the bed, pressed tight against the wall, sleeping like a little cat. Completely different from when she was awake. Like a cat with no sense of safety. If Logan had to say who he most wanted to get close to in Zaun, it would definitely be Echo. Logan genuinely liked Jinx as a character. He thought she had a lot of charm. But no matter how strong his adaptability was, having a crazy murderer lying next to him still made him uncomfortable, uneasy, conflicted. No matter how many excuses you made for Jinx, no matter how much you blamed the environment and people for turning her into this, wrong was still wrong. Echo went through just as much, yet wasn't Echo still warm like sunlight? Echo was Zaun's real seed. If I, Logan, get a vote, I'm voting Echo. Echo is Zaun's future leader. But reality was Jinx lying on his bed, and Echo, who knew where he was. Sigh. Looking at the sleeping Jinx, Logan hesitated, then shifted inward because hanging half off the bed was uncomfortable as hell. There was no way he could fall asleep like that. As for a pillow, forget it. He'd use his hands. He laced his fingers under his head and closed his eyes. But just as he was starting to drift off, something smacked him. Logan opened his eyes and saw Jinx curled up beside him, her head tucked close under his elbow. One small hand clutched the fabric at his chest tightly. The other hand rested at her lips, her mouth open as she bit down on her thumb painted with blue nail polish. 6. I'm sorry. Don't leave me. I really know I was wrong. I didn't want to. Please. 6. 6. 6. I don't hate you anymore. Come back. Logan listened to Jinx's voice, lay back down, and closed his eyes again. Maybe. There was still time. Chapter 8, Moving in with Jinx. Morning. Logan felt an itch on his face. He lifted a hand and patted his face a few times, shifted his body, and tried to go back to sleep. But the moment a bell-like giggle brushed his ear, Logan snapped his eyes open. He glanced to the side and saw Jinx propping her chin with one hand, while the other hand used a tuft of her blue hair to sweep across Logan's face, deliberately brushing it over his nose. Logan reached up and flicked her hair aside. All sleepiness vanished. He looked at her and asked quietly, "Since when are we this close?" Jinx pulled her hair back and said casually, "We've always been this close, haven't we? When we were little, you even gave me candy." "Did I?" Logan honestly couldn't remember. He sat up and rubbed his face. His adaptability really was ridiculous. He'd accepted transmigrating, a cheat system, and getting targeted by Thresh all in a single day, so accepting that he'd woken up in the same bed as a volatile undercity crime princess didn't even feel that weird anymore. Besides, compared to insane, compared to dangerous, could Jinx really be more dangerous than Thresh? Of course not. Jinx, however, looked unusually serious. "You did. I remember it clearly. And Logan," she continued, "get up. I'm hungry. So you go buy food for me." "I don't have money," Jinx said. "I don't have much money either," Logan replied. The pouch Marson had left him was only enough to cover a few days of meals for one person. Add Jinx to that, and it'd be gone in less than 2 days. "Fine, then I'll go get money." Jinx pulled out her gun and spun her finger around the trigger. Logan felt his soul leave his body. He was genuinely afraid it would go off. And when he thought about Jinx's ways of getting money, Logan sighed. Jinx, 6 Zaunites in general usually had only 3 ways to make money. 1. Work honestly for the pieties and earn some miserable hard-won pay from them. 2. Get a group together, break into a piety's home, steal something, and sell it. 3. The oldest and most violent method. And it was obvious Jinx's idea of getting money was the third. "I get it," Logan said, standing up. "I'll get food. You wait here." He grabbed the jacket off to the side and put it on. Jinx sprawled out on the bed again like she owned it. At his words, she lifted her legs lazily, braced both hands at her narrow waist, and struck a pose that basically said, yeah, I heard you." Logan didn't say anything else. He turned and headed out. On the way to the restaurant, Logan passed plenty of gang members. Looking at them and thinking about Jinx currently lying on his bed, he felt helpless. If Silco found out Jinx had been lying in Logan's bed, what kind of ending would Logan get? Best case scenario, shot dead. Worst case scenario, Silco has him used as shark bait. Logan didn't doubt it for a second. When he watched Arcane, he'd thought Silco was charismatic, even liked him as a character. But actually being in Zaun with the memories of living here, Logan knew exactly what Silco had brought to this place. Under violent rule, the people at the bottom feared Silco and hated him. Gratitude didn't exist. Even if Zaun really did become independent someday under Silco, what about the suffering Zaunites were enduring right now? How would that pain ever be repaid? If you only looked at the result and ignored the process, you lost a lot along the way. Sometimes Logan truly thought, if Silco and Vander could have fused into one person, it would have been perfect. Silco's iron-fisted methods paired with Vander's ideals, Zaun would have become truly united, not like this. Reform required blood and pain. But the ones paying that price weren't the people making the decisions. "Hey, have mercy, sir. I haven't eaten in 3 days. Sir, want shimmer? Latest batch. I swear it has no side effects. No. Please don't take my child." Voices of misery poured into Logan's ears. Logan acted like he hadn't heard. He reached the restaurant, pushed the door open, and ordered 2 meals. 1 boiled sump snapper frog legs. 1 loaf of bread mixed with gravel and impurities. Carrying the food, Logan went home. Wow! Frog legs! The moment he stepped inside, Jinx bounced up in front of him. She leaned forward, her small nose twitching as she sniffed the smell wafting from the container. She lifted her head, bright blue eyes sparkling with excitement, and shouted, "I haven't had this in forever. How did you know I like this? Silco won't let me eat stuff like this. Says it's dirty. He usually cooks for me himself, but his cooking is really not that great." Jinx snatched the container, pinched a piece of leg meat between 2 fingers, held it above her head, opened her mouth, dropped it in, then chewed loudly. Logan. If you like it, good. Here's bread too. Logan handed her the bread. I'm not eating that. It tastes bad. Jinx glanced at it, disgusted. The bread she ate normally came from topside soft, sweet, fragrant. This dry, hard undercity brick? No thanks. Logan didn't care. He tore off a chunk and shoved it into his mouth, chewing. Wood splinters. Dirt. Grit. He forced it down, then looked at Jinx and asked, "How many days are you planning to stay here? You're trying to kick me out." Jinx tilted her head. Her expression was calm. But her hand froze mid-bite, and her body subtly turned toward him. "Forget it," Logan said, rubbing his cheek, sore from chewing that awful bread. "Stay as long as you want." "Yay!" Jinx lit up again. She reached for the frog legs, pulled out another leg, and held it out to Logan. "Eat," she said. Logan reached to take it, but Jinx pulled it away, then shoved it right back toward his face again, staring at him. "Eat." Logan blinked. He opened his mouth. Jinx promptly poked the meat right in. The frog meat was soft and greasy, with a hard-to-describe fishy stench. The texture was weird. When Logan closed his mouth, his lips brushed Jinx's fingers. "It's pretty good," Logan said, swallowing with effort. Jinx beamed, delighted. Logan went right back to gnawing his dry bread. Late night. In the core of the lanes this area looked far richer than the outer ring. Crowds packed the center, merchants in top hats, tattooed gang members. Before a massive statue, people opened their mouths and drank the purple liquid that sprayed from the sculpture. At the very center was a bar. Its strange sign was covered in graffiti, making it look like one bright, glaring eye. Zaunites called it the last drop. Past the flashing neon on the first floor, the pulsing music, the patrons huffing shimmer and getting high, a hard-faced woman with a mechanical arm walked straight up to the restricted second floor. She knocked on the door. A moment later, a low voice answered. "Come in." She pushed the door open. The second floor of the last drop was covered in all kinds of strange graffiti. The desk, the books, the cups, everything had cute blue and pink doodles drawn on it. On an old chair, a man sat quietly. He wore a fitted vest over a red shirt. His hair was neatly combed, every strand in place. With his back to the woman, he held a mirror and was working on something. Looking closer, you'd see he was applying makeup painting over half his face. That half was covered in scars, but as his hand moved, the scars were gradually concealed. He lifted the mirror slightly, angled it toward the woman behind him. Red eyes glanced at the reflection. He set the mirror down, reached across the desk, and found a lighter that had two smiling eyes drawn on it. He placed a cigar between his lips. The cigar lit. He turned the chair around. Hands clasped neatly over his lower abdomen, he looked elegance itself. "Back?" Silco asked. Chapter 9, Prisoner number 516. On the second floor of the last drop, Sevika looked at Silco. She hesitated, then spoke. "No. We still haven't found her." "Then why are you here?" Silco asked calmly, cigar between his fingers. "I'm saying, wouldn't it be better this way?" Sevika said. She continued explaining to Silco, "She sneaks out all the time. This is the same. When it's time, she'll come back on her own, won't she?" Silco shook his head, picked up a folder from the side, and tossed it to Sevika. "This time is different." Sevika didn't even look at it because she already knew what had happened. A building in topside had exploded. 6 enforcers were dead. Someone had to take responsibility for that. Those weren't ordinary people, they were enforcers. And topside didn't need to use their brains, even the ones who didn't would still throw the blame straight down into the Undercity. Jinx disappearing was, in a way, a good thing. It prevented the enforcers from finding that madwoman if they searched the last drop. And, on a more personal level for Sevika, Jinx leaving the lanes was also a good thing because she was a walking problem. With her around, nothing ever went smoothly. So Sevika said, "It's perfect timing." Perfect timing. Silco's hand hit the desk with a heavy thunk. He looked at Sevika, his face cold, and asked evenly, "Tell me, what do you mean by perfect timing?" "She's not here. If topside comes to investigate, they won't find anything." That Sevika started, stumbling over the explanation. The fact that she's not here is the worst part. Silco cut her off, one hand bracing his forehead as he continued, "Don't worry. I've handled it. Marcus dealt with it. It was an accident." "An accident? 6 enforcers die and you call it an accident?" Silco lifted his head and stared at Sevika. "If not, then why did I lift him up? Why did I cooperate with him?" Sevika fell silent. "Keep looking," Silco said. "Until you bring her back." "Understood." Sevika turned, pushed the door open, and left. Alone in the room, Silco smoked, exhaling rings toward the ceiling. In the past, he would always see a hint of blue up their long braids drooping down, swaying like willow fluff in the wind. But now there was nothing. In a murmured voice, Silco said to himself, "This is the longest you've ever run away from home." It's been 3 days. Before, when Jinx ran away, she usually came back that night, or at dawn the next day. But this time, it had been 3 days. Jinx had never stayed away from him this long, and it made Silco restless. "Still water hold." A tall woman walked up to the warden. Facing a man built like a wall, she took a deep breath and forced down her unease. "I'm Enforcer Caitlyn," the woman in a long coat said. "Here are my papers." "What is it?" "I want to speak with one of your prisoners." "Speak." The warden snorted. "My prisoners don't like talking." Caitlyn paused, then said, "He was beaten by his accomplices. He has to have something to say. He was brought in today." The warden's eyes shifted. He lowered his head slightly. "Oh. Prisoner 2135. I know. But, you might not be able to see him." Caitlyn's voice sharpened. "Why?" "Something happened," the warden said. "What happened?" "Just, something. Not good. Still water hold, underground level 43. Caitlyn took a deep breath and stepped out of the elevator. The moment she did, she heard a dull, heavy sound. Following it, she walked forward. Boom. Closer now, she could tell what it was, the sound of fists slamming into a wall. Then she saw someone inside a cell, back turned to her, repeatedly punching the wall. Under the corridor's dim lighting, Caitlyn saw a number. 516. Prisoner 516. How long had she been in here? Caitlyn couldn't help thinking, 516 was far too low. The one who'd just gotten in today was 2135. So. The woman in the cell noticed Caitlyn too. She turned around, revealing a beautiful face. Messy pink hair fell in strands over her brow, partially shadowing her eyes. Beneath her left eye, a bold 6 was tattooed. "Who are you?" the woman asked. "Caitlyn," Caitlyn replied. The woman paced inside her cell. Caitlyn opened the still water file and continued, "I read your record. There's nothing, no personal details, no prior charges. Why are you in prison?" "Because I'm too cheerful," the woman said, suddenly sweeping past the bars right in front of Caitlyn, making her flinch. Caitlyn steadied herself and pressed, "You beat a prisoner who arrived today. 2135. Why? Can't I beat him?" "We're investigating a case," Caitlyn said. "He's the only witness." The woman lowered her head, shrugged, and said, "Wow. That's boring." Seeing that the woman wouldn't give a straight answer no matter what, Caitlyn sighed, turned, and started to leave. What a waste of time. Yeah, no kidding. "Hey." The woman's voice followed her. "Tell that one-eyed bastard Silco I said hi." Caitlyn stopped, confusion flickering across her face. She returned to the cell, looking at the woman inside as she rolled her shoulders, and asked, "Silco, the Undercity industrialist." "Industrialist?" The woman froze, raised an eyebrow, then waved it off. "Whatever. I'm not wasting my breath on you. Do me a favor and throw whoever wants to hit me in here. Let me enjoy myself tonight." Caitlyn went quiet for 2 seconds. She felt like the woman had completely misunderstood her. A newly arrived prisoner. An industrialist who controlled the Undercity. The woman's words. And Caitlyn's own suspicion that Zaun's gangs were being directed by someone in the shadows. When she connected it all, Caitlyn's body shivered. Something clicked. She stepped forward, closer to the bars, opened her folder, and held it up toward the woman inside. "Do you recognize this?" The woman's attitude had been indifferent, barely paying attention. But the moment she glanced at the page and saw the photo marked with a monkey graffiti symbol, she surged forward, bright blue eyes locking onto Caitlyn as she shouted. "Where did you get that?" "Zaun. The lanes." Logan looked at his house, now completely covered in graffiti and the walls painted with huge monsters and a monkey warrior. His mouth twitched. "Jinx, where did you even get that much paint?" "Paint?" Jinx, barefoot and standing on the table while she worked on her masterpiece, glanced back at Logan and flashed him a huge grin. "A kind person gave it to me," she said. Logan couldn't even be bothered to complain anymore. A kind person? As in, a kind person with a gun pressed to their head? How very kind. He just stood there with his arms crossed, watching Jinx work. And honestly, her paintings really were pretty good. Chapter 10, Sevika Comes Knocking. During this stretch of time, Logan really did end up living with Jinx. In the daytime, Logan would go out looking for work and he actually found a job hauling cargo at the docks. The owner of the merchant ship was from Ionia. The man thought Logan looked friendly, so he took him on as a laborer. But since it was a merchant ship from outside, Logan only worked there for 2 days before they loaded up and left Zaun. Luckily, with strength that didn't match his appearance at all, Logan earned an extra bonus from the shipowner. That bonus was enough for Logan and Jinx to live for a while longer. Besides that, Logan kept seriously studying the cheat he'd brought with him. Of course, he didn't dare descend into Spirit Blossom again, but Logan carefully examined the descent attempts. In the Spirit Blossom space, he noticed a new bar that looked like an energy meter. Once the white energy bar filled up, Logan would gain 1 descent opportunity. When he first discovered it, Logan didn't know what he had to do to replenish the energy bar. The strange part was its value was rising on its own. The increase was painfully slow, but it was definitely climbing, which meant that while Logan was in the physical world, the bar was replenishing. But, what had he done that made it replenish? After studying it for a while, Logan realized it was because of emotions. The reason the energy bar rose in the Spirit Blossom space was because it absorbed emotions from the physical world: human sorrow, joy, anger, those feelings that came from deep in the soul, all of them could replenish the energy bar. That discovery thrilled Logan. The Spirit Blossom cheat was the key to whether he could live steadily in this world. Now that he'd found a way to refill his descent attempts, as long as he avoided Thresh, Logan could keep getting stronger in the physical world. So he experimented, and then Logan discovered something really weird. Other people's emotions increased his energy bar far, far less than when he was just lying at home. If he spent an afternoon outside, he'd run into hundreds or even thousands of people. Even if he wasn't interacting with them up close, Logan would deliberately move closer to people with big emotional swings, yet the increase still wasn't anywhere near as much as when he was home watching Jinx. No, seriously, why? After thinking it through, Logan looked at Jinx, whose emotions were basically always right on the surface, and figured this was probably some kind of mentally ill privilege. Anyway, it was a good thing. Late at night, at a lively little market on the outer edge of the lanes, Logan stood at a stall. He pulled a few coins from inside his jacket, set them on the counter, then looked up at the person in front of him, shirtless, wearing an apron, skin green like a big fat fish-headed human. "Jericho, give me 1 berry sauce whitefish, and 1 spicy sauce sump snapper frog," Logan said. "Gah-hey-hey." A meaningless sound came out as the cleaver-wielding humanoid burst into laughter, raising the cleaver and chopping down on the board to split a sea fish. Logan waited quietly. The sump snapper frog he'd bought at the restaurant before was just boiled. Aside from the stink, there wasn't any flavor. But what Jericho made was different. Six had personally verified it: Jericho's place was the best sump snapper frog in Zaun. Even though Logan still wasn't used to that greasy, squishy texture, he could handle Jericho's cooking. And it wasn't just better than the restaurant, Jericho's prices were also noticeably cheaper. Logan didn't have much money to begin with, so of course he had to stretch it. Goo-ha-ha-hi. Jericho finished the food, packed it into 2 huge containers, and handed them to Logan. Logan took them. Feeling the bottom of the containers, his palm was instantly coated in grease, and his mouth twitched. Whatever. In Zaun, don't expect food to be clean and sanitary. It was all damn high-tech and ruthless anyway. "Thanks, Jericho." Logan gave him a wave. Jericho looked up, laughed with that gah-ha-ha sound, and waved back. Carrying the food, Logan headed home. A few minutes after Logan left the stall, a woman appeared in the market with both hands in her pockets. She wore a cap and a red jacket, hunching forward as she walked. Behind her was a tall, slender woman who looked a little timid. "Hey, why are we here?" Caitlyn couldn't hold it in anymore. She strode forward on long legs, closed the distance, and asked Six in a low voice. "Just follow me," Six said, not answering. She walked straight up to a stall and sat down. "Jericho." "Gya." Jericho turned his head. When he saw Six, his round, fat face and tiny eyes lit up instantly. "Golly. Yeah, it's me. I'm back. Hurry up and give me something good and I need to ask you for a favor." Six patted her stomach. "You have no idea how much I've missed this," Six said with a grin. Even if the world ended today, she was still eating at Jericho's first. God knew how much she'd craved this taste while she was in prison. Caitlyn stood to the side, completely baffled. She looked at the grime on the counter, then looked at the sanitation situation behind it, and the pretty enforcer from topside's mouth twitched. This was food? Undercity people ate like this? Logan carried the containers and walked into the alley, but the moment he did, he narrowed his eyes. Because at the bottom of his building, by the stair rail, two people were lying there unconscious. And his front door was open, and loud banging noises were coming from inside. Logan steadied the containers, then lightly hopped over the two bodies on the ground and went up the stairs. "I knew this day would come," Logan muttered to himself. Logan had long been prepared for Silco to come knocking. After all, Zaun was Silco's backyard. And with Jinx painting graffiti all over the place right outside Logan's door like a flame drawing moths, it was only a matter of time before Silco's people found them. Very soon, Logan reached the doorway and looked inside. His home was completely wrecked. His only two pieces of furniture, the wooden plank bed and the small table, were smashed to pieces. And inside the room, Jinx was pinned against the wall by a woman, her throat gripped, as she spewed a torrent of profanity. "Hold still. You think I want to drag you back?" Sevika lowered her head and barked at the struggling Jinx. If she had a choice, she wouldn't bring Jinx back at all. This was just Silco's order. "Then let go of me, you stupid idiot!" Jinx screamed, then opened her mouth to bite. That bite made Logan, who was watching, nearly lose it. He almost laughed out loud. Jinx opened her mouth and chomped her little white teeth down on Sevika's mechanical arm. Krrt, the grinding sound was sharp and unpleasant. Honestly, Jinx's teeth were impressive. Ahem. Logan made a sound. Chapter 11, Actually, I can fight too. That cough made both women who were fighting in the room look toward Logan. When she saw it was him, Jinx's beautiful blue eyes lit up, shining brightly, but surprisingly, the little maniac immediately calmed down again. "Get out! Asshole!" Jinx yelled at Logan. "Logan? I came to help, and she's still cursing me out?" Jinx wasn't doing it for no reason. The moment she saw Logan, her first instinct born from a lack of security was to call for him, hoping he'd come help her. But Jinx quickly remembered what Logan was capable of. Logan going up against that big bruiser? Yeah, forget it. Even though she'd only been with Logan for a week, they were still childhood friends. She wouldn't say she cared that much, but the truth was, Logan did occupy a small spot in her heart. Her heart wasn't big. 90% of it was taken up by a pink-haired girl, the one person who was her entire world. And the remaining 10% didn't even belong to Logan. It belonged to Silco. But still, in the time they'd spent together, Logan had been using a tiny shovel, carving out a space for himself in her heart. So it wasn't that she didn't care about him. She was obsessive, chaotic, but that didn't mean she was genuinely out of her mind. She was just desperately lacking a sense of belonging and safety. She needed attention, needed affirmation. And Logan happened to give her that. He never said it out loud, but Jinx knew she had a lot of issues, lots of them. Plenty of people had told her things like that before. Milo, Vander, Six, Silco, all of them had found her annoying at one point, like she was nothing but a nuisance. But Logan never said that about her. Even when she pestered him non-stop these past few days, even when she wouldn't behave at night when they slept, Logan never acted like she was a burden. And that made Jinx feel something familiar in him, something like Six. That feeling soothed her shattered heart and made her feel safe. To put it bluntly, she needed someone to spoil her. Back then, Jinx always had to hear Milo's harsh, grating voice. But during this time with Logan, she hadn't heard that ugly, piercing voice again. And because of that, she didn't want Logan to die. Call it caring about Logan. Call it refusing to admit she was a curse who got everyone around her killed. Call it a drowning person grabbing the last piece of driftwood. Either way, she didn't want Logan to die. Get lost. When she saw Logan, Sevika only said it coldly. To Sevika, this guy who suddenly appeared wasn't any kind of threat. No weapon on him. He looked skinny. No tattoos, either. What threat could some ordinary Zaunite be to her? And when Logan didn't leave, Sevika didn't waste time. Her mechanical arm clamped down on Jinx, and her other hand instantly went to her waist. Sevika drew a pistol, aimed it at Logan, and was about to fire. Sevika. Logan spoke softly. Logan. Hearing his voice, Sevika froze. She stared at his face and his black hair, and instinctively blurted it out. It's me, Logan nodded. He was a kid from the lanes, one of Vander's kids. The orphans of the lanes were basically all under Vander's protection, so naturally Logan had crossed paths with Sevika. Since he was around 6's age, and a boy, Logan used to run errands for Sevika when he was little. And he and Marson and the other kids had once been close with her, too. How are you here? Sevika lowered the gun. Jinx seized the chance. She lifted her leg, trying to drive her knee into Sevika. But Sevika just snapped her elbow forward. The mechanical elbow joint twisted as it hammered into Jinx's stomach. Gah! Bitter fluid shot out as Jinx started coughing violently. Sevika, can we just talk like normal people? Logan said, rubbing his hair. As far as characters with a lot of screen time in Arcane went, Logan genuinely liked Sevika. And in his childhood memories, Sevika had been good to him and to Marson's group. Which was weird. Sevika clearly didn't like keeping Powder and Six around back then, but she was good to Logan and Marson. She was strict, and her mouth was sharp, and she'd even hit Logan and Marson before, but she really did look after them. Sometimes when she sent them on errands, she'd give the kids extra reward money. In Logan's mind, if Vander was the gentle father figure, then Sevika was the strict older sister figure. And with how things later played out between Sevika and Jinx, how to put it? Logan felt like it was kind of like a loyal bodyguard housekeeper paired with a fallen crime princess. And suddenly, Logan had another thought: maybe the reason Sevika disliked Six and Powder was because she thought those two made Vander go soft? After all, in Sevika's eyes, Zaun's dignity mattered more than anything. This isn't something you get involved in. Get out of here, now. I'll pretend I never saw you, Sevika said to Logan. Her expression stayed calm, her tone icy. Can you let go of Jinx first? You already know she's called Jinx. Sevika paused, then looked at Jinx. I get it. So you've been with Logan these past few days. What, is that not allowed? Why do you have to stick your nose into every piece of bullshit? What are you, his damn underwear? If Silco tells you to cover his ass, you just do it. Jinx yelled through the pain, drool hanging at the corner of her mouth as she cursed Sevika. Do you have any idea you're going to get him killed? Sevika's voice turned even colder. Bullshit. I didn't do anything. Jinx snapped back. Here it comes again. Again, acting like I'm some curse that ruins everyone. 6 enforcers are dead up in Piltover. And you left your graffiti and your grenades at the scene. They're looking for you. And you still say you're not putting Logan in danger. They won't find me. Sevika, Logan cut in. So you're not listening to me anymore? Sevika turned her head, looking at Logan. Then she added, Logan, you've gotten bold, haven't you? You forget how I used to discipline you, hey. I'll say it one more time, leave. Now. Logan, this isn't something you can get dragged into. You're not one of us. Sevika raised her right hand and drove a heavy punch into Jinx's lower abdomen, putting real power behind it. Jinx folded like a shrimp and collapsed to the floor. Then Sevika turned and walked toward Logan. On second thought, I'll throw you out myself. Logan glanced at his attribute panel, then thought about all the private tests he'd run on his body. Then he looked at Sevika and smiled. Sevika, there's something I need to tell you. Sevika wiped her knuckles as she approached. What? Logan looked at her, opened his mouth. Actually. His body vanished from where he stood. Logan lunged at Sevika, so fast the human eye could barely catch it, his fist already blasting toward her chest. I can fight, too. Chapter 12, Us. WO. Lying on the floor, Jinx saw the figure that had been sent flying. She lifted her face, her small mouth opening and closing, and before she could stop herself, she let out a whoa. Jinx stared at Logan standing where that big bruiser had been a moment ago, her beautiful blue eyes filled with disbelief. Oh my god! What the hell? Logan, who couldn't even beat Clagger, just sent that big bruiser flying? Then why was he always so polite to me? Jinx endured the pain, completely baffled. She'd thought Logan had let her stay because he couldn't beat her. Wasn't that how it went the first time they met? She'd threatened him into giving her that bed. But now, Logan was insane. And Logan? Logan had no idea what was running through Jinx's head. He just shook out his arm, then looked toward the figure embedded in the wall, half buried in the grey dust. Logan had only used about half his strength. That kind of force, against a normal person, was probably the kind of punch that would leave someone missing a limb. But against Sevika? That was a big question mark. Because Logan knew Sevika's body had long since been enhanced by Shimmer. After all, that Chemtech mechanical arm of hers wasn't something bolted on externally, it was integrated directly into flesh and blood. And with that arm activated, as Shimmer flowed into it, boiled, burned, and drove the machinery, those fluids would inevitably mix, at least partially, with Sevika's bloodstream. After enough exchange like that, her physical conditioning had already surpassed ordinary people by a mile. Maybe Sevika wasn't like the future Jinx becoming a full-on Shimmer-enhanced monster, but her physique was definitely far beyond normal. Besides, Sevika had always been the second best fighter in the lanes. Outside of Vander, she was the lane's unquestioned number 2 whether she admitted it or not. Sevika, Logan raised a hand to shade his eyes, squinting toward that spot as he called out, "Can we talk like normal people now?" That gesture caught Jinx's attention. Curled up like a shrimp on the floor, she wriggled a little, baring her teeth as her eyes followed his movement. "So cool," she whispered. "I'm doing that next time." Jinx made up her mind on the spot. Cock-lick. The answer to Logan came as the sound of machinery. A pinpoint of purple light appeared, then a bright yellow glow flared up like fire. VMM. A streak of purple sword light shot at Logan. He tilted his body just slightly to dodge it and even whistled. "Sevika's getting serious." Boom. The sword light slammed into the wall. The surface collapsed and shattered, and Logan immediately started feeling a headache coming on. "My place, yeah, it's completely gone now. And the money I have on me still isn't enough to rent another room." While thinking that, Logan slipped past a second slash of sword light. "Again, you little bastard. You really have gotten bold, hey?" There was moisture at the corner of Sevika's mouth as she charged out through the broken wall, her right arm raised high. The Chemtech mechanical arm swung down toward Logan's head like a blade. Logan leaned back, avoiding the cut. He glanced down and saw that Sevika's strike had pulverized the floor, leaving a deep gouge that radiated terrifying heat. "She's trying to kill me." Of course. Sevika was never the type to let feelings get in the way. In her heart, the big picture always came first. That was why she'd betrayed Vander. Logan lifted his head. "Sevika, do you remember what you taught me and Marson back then?" Logan spoke as he moved. "You said when you fight, don't watch the body, watch the eyes." "Right." As he spoke, Logan stepped in, locking his gaze onto Sevika's eyes. His right foot stamped down hard on her left shin. Sevika jolted in pain with a sharp cry, stumbling forward. In the next instant, Logan drove from his waist and pivoted. His left arm came up. And his elbow was already lined up with Sevika's chin. On the floor, Jinx covered her face with one hand, yet her long, pretty fingers spread wide, leaving a gap for a pair of narrowed, gleaming eyes to peek through. "Wah! That is going to hurt so bad." Thud. The sound of bone cracking rang out. At the moment of impact, Logan had pulled back a lot of force. Even so, the instant elbow met jaw, Sevika's eyes rolled up, her chin twisted and she blacked out on the spot. With a thud she went limp and collapsed, her legs twitching twice. Jinx jolted, suddenly anxious. "Is she dead? How could she be?" Logan looked at her like she'd grown a second head, spreading his hands. "How would I ever kill her? She just passed out." "That definitely hurt," Jinx muttered. Holding her stomach, she pushed herself up and walked over to Sevika. She lifted a leg. But after a second thought, she lowered it again. The big bruiser was already miserable enough. Then she looked at Logan. Logan was packing up. He grabbed 2 pieces of clothing off the table and headed toward the door. Watching his back, Jinx stood there, hesitating. She didn't actually hate Silco. She just hated being bored. And right now, Logan was bringing her something new: freshness, excitement, a lot of fun. More importantly, being with someone her own age like Logan made her forget Milo, forget Clagger, forget Vander, forget Six. But now, she didn't know if she should follow. Sevika was right. She'd caused trouble again. Piltover's enforcers were coming down. If she stayed with Logan, she'd only drag him into it. Sure, she'd brought back a hextech gemstone, and Silco was thrilled, but using it to make a weapon? She couldn't do it. It was too hard. Even with that young counselor's notes, she still couldn't do it. Because every time she started experimenting, Milo and the others would appear in her head, noisy, shrill, annoying. That was why she'd run away in the first place. Besides, what reason did she even have to make Logan keep taking her along? She'd assumed Logan was just a normal guy, someone she could threaten because he couldn't beat her. But looking at it now. Wow! Sevika got hit for real. That looked painful. That looked brutal. What's wrong, Jinx? Why aren't you coming? Logan's voice suddenly rang out as she stood there lost in thought. Jinx looked up and saw Logan turned back to her. He spoke seriously. We have to go, Jinx. This place isn't livable anymore. We. Jinx froze, teeth sinking into her pale lower lip. What else would it be? Logan tilted his head. Jinx stared at him, biting harder. Then she suddenly relaxed, spreading her hands with an easy, matter-of-fact tone. Yeah, we should go. But wait. I've got something to do first. Jinx ran over to the rubble by the wall. She crouched down and started digging through the stones, searching for something. Then she found what she wanted. Out on the lanes, a hooded girl in torn pants, her shoes clacking as she walked, was laughing like crazy. Did you see it? The art on Sevika's face, cute, right? Pretty, right? But that stuff's hard to wash off. When she gets back, Silco's totally going to chew her out. I've been saying it forever, this big oaf can't do anything. You tell her to clean, and she'll light a kerosene lamp and burn the whole place down. With her back pressed against a man, her entire weight leaning into him, the girl spoke with bright, delighted glee. Logan was laughing too. Thinking about the graffiti Jinx had left on Sevika's face, he could already picture Silco's expression when he saw her. Walking out of the lanes together with Jinx, Logan felt lighter. He really could fight. In Zaun, as things stood right now, Sevika was one of the top-tier fighters in plain sight, yet Logan had dropped her with just a few punches. That made him feel safe. As for why he kept bringing Jinx with him, Logan found it strange himself. Back then he'd seen her standing there in a daze, one arm wrapped around herself as she stood beside Sevika, and those words had slipped out instinctively. Was it because he didn't want to lose Jinx as a walking energy bank? Or, did he want to change all of this? Hey! I've called you like 3 times, what are you even thinking about? A small hand popped up in front of Logan's face, and he snapped back to reality. Jinx's little face was right there in front of him. Logan caught her hand. Looking at her mischievous expression, he couldn't help but smile. I was thinking about what to eat tonight. Don't worry, I took all the big oaf's money, Jinx said, patting her almost non-existent chest. So you're treating? No problem. All the mire-toad meat you want, she declared. Logan went quiet. I really don't want to eat that. Chapter 13, Logan and Powder's new home. At the last drop, Silco's fingers tapped lightly against his forehead, a flicker of anger flashing in his eyes. On the second floor, Sevika sat slumped on a couch with her face covered, her eyes full of frustration and unease. Beneath the rags, even 2 layers of cloth couldn't fully hide the blue-violet glow seeping out enough for Silco to guess that something had happened to her. So not only did you fail to bring her back to me, Silco lifted his gaze to Sevika, you got played by her instead. Yes, Sevika answered. That doesn't add up. I know Jinx is capable, but right now, she's still not on your level. You understand what I'm saying? Silco stared at her. The moment his eyes landed on her, Sevika immediately turned her head away. She really couldn't face anyone like this. That damned little brat. Jinx had drawn all kinds of designs on her face, stuff that just wouldn't wash off. Little bears, little monkeys, a pig snout, all sorts of nonsense. How was Sevika supposed to show her face outside looking like that? Did she still want to survive in Zaun or not? If Silco hadn't pressed her so hard, Sevika would have gone to find a tattooist first, to cover the mess on her face. It was an accident, Sevika started. Silco cut her off. An accident? I thought you weren't like the others. Silco's tone turned serious. I thought you didn't make excuses. But now? You've disappointed me. Sevika fell silent. Then, helplessly, she said, it wasn't Jinx. It was a kid. Wait. Say that again clearly. The instant Sevika said it, Silco shot to his feet. Someone else was with her. Even when he was disappointed in Sevika, Silco could keep his emotions in check. But this made him lose his composure. He stepped out from behind the table and closed the distance, stopping in front of her. Logan. A kid from the lanes. Sevika's voice tightened. You know him too, don't you? Logan. Silco frowned. That black-haired kid who used to be scared of me. Don't tell me you got handled by him. Logan? Silco had almost forgotten the name. If not for the fact that the kid had black hair like Silco, he probably wouldn't remember him at all. But, him? That kid who hid behind the other children, who got scared the moment he saw Silco, who only dared to get close to Vander and despite being a Zaunite kid, couldn't even drink? And that kid made Sevika suffer? Who the hell would believe that? Silco stared at Sevika with her head lowered, the curse words practically choking in his throat. It was him. Sevika lifted her head and met Silco's eyes. He's changed. He still called me Sevika, but he wasn't afraid of me at all. His speed was faster than the chem mutants we've modified, and he's strong, really strong. I'm not lying. Because of Logan, I let Jinx get away. Hat. Silco tilted his head back, covered his face with one hand, then dragged his fingers up through his hair. Send everyone out. I don't care if you tear Zaun apart, bring Jinx back to me. Silco barked. Now. But Piltover is watching us. If we make a huge move right now, it'll be a mess, Sevika said quietly. The biggest mess for me is her not being at my side, Silco said, lowering his head, his voice already edged with threat. Understand? Sevika held his gaze, took a slow breath, and nodded. I understand. She got up to leave, but her eyes were dark and uncertain. He's changed. Silco was starting to look more and more like the man Sevika remembered. Softer. We're wasting time, Six. Your plan failed. Failed. Six snorted. She'll come back sooner or later. How is that a failure? At a street corner in the lanes, Six stood with one foot braced against the wall, hands in her pockets, looking sideways at the tall woman beside her with that lazy, cocky air. We've been waiting all day. And another thing, why did you leave me alone in that kind of place? Hey! Six rolled her eyes at Caitlyn, completely unimpressed. You looked like you were enjoying it. I went back to get you, didn't I? But you were chatting them up like you owned the place. Walked in acting all proper, then the moment the girls surrounded her and she downed a couple drinks, the real her came out, trying to look cool, trying to flirt. Pilties, always putting on an act. That's not the same. Caitlyn protested. I was gathering information. Whatever. Six waved her off. Cop, I don't have time to argue. If you're tired of this, go back to your topside life and stay comfy. Caitlyn straightened, watching Six with a steady, serious look. Not happening. You're coming with me. I told you, only if you finish the job will I actually give you your freedom. If you don't accomplish anything, then you're going back with me. Six glanced at Caitlyn and laughed softly. Go back? Go back to Stillwater Hold? Yeah, no. That pig slop hellhole, who the hell would go back there? Now that she was out, Six wasn't going back. Not for anything. But she didn't argue with Caitlyn either. At the same time, in Zaun's mid-tier plaza, two figures, one tall, one short, pushed open a door. The old door creaked as it swung inward. Dust billowed up and rushed into their faces. Cough cough. Jinx pinched her nose with one hand and waved the other in front of her face. Seriously? This dump costs that much. Jinx shouted, turning to Logan. Logan, is he ripping us off or what? This is the mid-tier plaza. That's the price, Logan said. He's not ripping us off. The owner really hadn't cheated them. The mid-tier plaza wasn't like the sump because Piltovans still came here sometimes to buy things, enforcers would occasionally patrol to protect those important Piltover types. So it wasn't as chaotic as the depths. Which meant housing was also several tiers more expensive. TCH. I thought we'd have a ton of money to play with. Turns out we don't have much at all. Don't worry. We'll earn more together, Logan told her. Jinx always put emphasis on we. If Logan only said me, she'd immediately look unhappy. It was obvious Jinx had a deep, almost obsessive attachment to the word we. Earn money? How? Find a job around here. No way. Jinx yelped. I'm not working for them. What, you want me to be some restaurant server? I can't do that. Then we do it the other way, Logan said. That instantly lit her up. Oh, that's my specialty. Say it, who are we stealing from? Jinx grinned, excitement spreading across her face. It really was what she was best at. And she wanted to show Logan what she could do. She wanted him to see she had value. We'll talk about money later. Right now, Jinx, what we need to do is clean, Logan said, rolling up his sleeves as he looked at the filthy mess around them. No one had lived here for a long time. The mid-tier plaza was safer, sure, but only compared to the sump. And besides, anyone with money and influence who didn't rely on gangs would go live at the promenade, the district bordering Piltover. That was the life they wanted. The people without money had no choice but to live down in the sump. So the mid-tier plaza didn't have a big population. Most of the time, it was more like a transfer point. Me? I have to clean too. Didn't you say Sevika can't even clean? Logan said. Then you definitely can. I feel like you're provoking me. Jinx stepped closer, hands behind her back, lightly swinging her braids. This is our new home, Logan said. We're living here for a while, aren't we? Fine. Let's clean. Jinx sprang up, arms thrown wide, legs planted apart, shouting it like a declaration. Home. She liked that word. Chapter 14, if she'd obediently listen, she wouldn't be Jinx. Cleaning an entire house from top to bottom takes a lot of time. So Logan focused on the key areas, mainly the bedroom they'd be using, and the bathroom. After that, he and Jinx went to grab something to eat somewhere along the mid-tier walkways, and by the time they got back, it was already night. Logan, can't we sleep together tonight? I don't want to sleep alone. Up on the second floor at night, Logan was in his pajamas. The fabric wasn't anything special, but it was still way more comfortable than wearing rags. Jinx stood at his door hugging a pillow. She'd just showered, her loose blue hair was still damp, clinging wetly to her skin. She was wearing a pink nightgown she'd bought from a shop that afternoon. She craned her neck to look up at Logan, hope written all over her face. Logan thought for a moment, then nodded and stepped aside. Come in. Staying close to Jinx helped his energy bar go up. Of course Logan wasn't going to pass up this chance. He'd been wondering how to spend more time around her anyway, and now she was practically delivering herself to his doorstep. Refuse? Yeah, right. Even setting aside the fact that she could boost his energy bar, just the fact that she was pretty was reason enough not to say no. With Logan's approval, Jinx cheered, hugged her pillow tighter, then charged into his room with her head down. The little house had 2 floors, 2 rooms downstairs, 3 rooms upstairs. It was actually pretty spacious. And yet Jinx still insisted on sleeping with Logan. Once she flopped onto the bed, Jinx's legs wouldn't behave, kicking and tapping restlessly. She held a storybook and looked at Logan. Want a midnight story? She asked. Logan immediately shook his head. Listening to Jinx tell stories? He'd heard more than enough these past few days. And the weirdest part was Jinx was clearly holding a book, but the story she told was never the story that was actually on the page. Her brain jumped all over the place. She'd shove her own ideas into the book, and before long she'd completely wandered off the original plot, switching to a dramatic voice and exaggerated gestures like she was putting on a full performance for Logan. Some terrifying stinky bug, some fang and claw monster. Logan even tried to ask what kind of creatures those were because they sounded ridiculously strong. And then she'd go quiet, start mumbling, and change the subject. If Logan asked too many questions and pushed her, she'd just start hitting him. Zero manners. When the lights went out, Logan glanced over and saw that Jinx had fallen asleep facing him. Her mouth was slightly open, thumb in her mouth, thumbnail painted. Curled up like a cat, sleeping Jinx looked like a pretty little kitten. The crazed, twitchy energy she carried during the day was completely gone, replaced by a quiet stillness. Maybe because she lacked any real sense of safety, anxiety always clung to her, making her curl up tight even in sleep. It was hard not to feel sorry for her seeing that. Logan watched her for a moment, ran a hand through the hair on his forehead, and closed his eyes too. What was interesting was that Jinx wasn't sleeping with her back to him anymore, she was facing him now. That was good news. It meant she trusted Logan a little more. Not that it made much difference whether she was facing forward or backward, she was flat as a board either way. In the morning, Logan got out of bed and rubbed his sore right arm. Looking down, he saw a wet spot on his sleeve. Jinx had already gotten up before him. She'd changed clothes and was crouched on a chair, fiddling with some little toy, no idea where she'd even gotten it. Today we're going out to make money, right? Yes, Logan said, but you're staying home today. Staying home? Jinx knocked the toy against the table and looked at him. Didn't we say we'd make money together? We haven't even properly talked through our plan yet. Today I'm just going out to check the situation. I'll be back by evening. Logan grabbed his clothes, changed, then looked back at her with a smile. What do you want to eat tonight? Jinx was clearly unhappy. Hearing him, she hugged her knees and muttered, anything. All right. I'm heading out. Logan smiled, pulled on his hat. Sevika had already seen him with Jinx. And by now, Silco definitely knew too. The Undercity was probably getting turned upside down, with Silco's people searching everywhere for both of them. Logan went downstairs and stepped outside. When he turned back, he saw Jinx pressed against the window watching him. When their eyes met, she waved. Logan lifted his hand and waved back. Then he pulled his hat lower and headed toward the busiest part of the mid-tier. After spending some time asking around, Logan quickly learned what was happening below. Just like he'd predicted, the Undercity was again an absolute mess. Silco's people were barging into places left and right, and word had been sent to the Chembarons too, ordering them to help search for Jinx. The result was that the mid-tier plaza was packed today. Lots of people had fled up from the Undercity to avoid the chaos. What Logan didn't know was that about 10 minutes after he left, the door of the little house opened. A cloaked figure slipped out, sneaky as a cat, and a striking flash of blue hair showed at the edge of the hood. If I actually listened and behaved, then I wouldn't be called Jinx. With long legs taking exaggerated steps, Jinx walked backward down an alley in the mid-tier plaza, even sticking out her tongue at the space ahead of her. Then she pulled out a kin, glanced around to make sure no one was watching, and started her masterpiece. Logan went out and told her to stay home? Yeah, no. Nice try. Staying home alone was way too boring. Pursing her lips, Jinx shook the kin and sprayed paint onto the wall. Just like that. A little more here, cool. Whoa, I really am a genius. The more she painted, the more she got into it. Jinx broke into a light jog, the spray leaving a crooked, wobbly blue line on the crumbling wall as she giggled to herself. Ow! She slammed into something and toppled backward, landing on the ground. Rubbing her head, she looked down at the small thing that had stumbled into her arms. A grey-black little jacket, mismatched yellow pants, messy brown hair like a puffed-up furball, big orange-yellow eyes staring up at her in fear. The kid looked exactly like a scruffy little stray dog. She's over here. Fuck, she can really run. Finally boxed her in. Noise erupted from deeper in the alley. Several tattooed men rushed out and behind her, more men appeared, sealing off the way out. The scruffy little stray dog immediately looked over, then instinctively burrowed into Jinx's arms, trembling as she stared at the men. Jinx first glanced down at the little kid clinging to her, then looked at the group in front of her and rolled her eyes. Yeah. Same old story. Chembarons snatching kids. Jinx had run into that kind of thing plenty of times. Whether the kids were being taken to fill out their ranks or dragged off to work in mines and toxic waste pits, it didn't matter. In the Undercity, there weren't many orphans who got to grow up safely. Hey, Jinx poked the kid's back, you're crushing me. The little girl didn't respond. And the men had already reached them. They extended their hands to grab the child. The kid fought like hell, and when she swung her arm up, she accidentally slapped Jinx's hood. The cloak slipped off. Blue hair and braids spilled free. Jinx lazily scratched the back of her neck, then raised her head. "This isn't your busy, get the hell out of." The lead man froze. His eyes widened when he saw her face. "You." He'd just gotten her photo from his boss last night. The entire Undercity was searching for her right now. Jinx smiled, the corner of her mouth lifting. Her hand, already near her neck, slid smoothly down to her left waistband. With a sharp motion, she drew a pistol. "Hi there." Her lips closed, then opened again. Jinx squinted one eye. Bang. Chapter 15, How did each of you bring someone back? Aren't you getting up yet? Seriously, how long are you planning to cling to me? Those guys, are they here to grab you? Or to grab me? Whatever. They're already scared off, huh? Don't let the fact they're big and tall fool you. Once you drop one of them, the rest get scared and run. That's what Logan meant by a bunch of losers. He was talking about idiots like them. Jinx looked down at the kid curled up on top of her and shook the pistol in her hand. The moment she did, the little girl immediately scooted back and stood up. Her hands twisted together in front of her. She kept her head down, but still sneaked a glance up at Jinx. When she realized Jinx was looking at her too and their eyes met, the little girl's orange-yellow pupil shrank. Her whole body trembled, and she instantly looked away again, dropping her head. Seeing that, Jinx let out an exasperated huff. "Lucky you ran into me. If it were someone else, forget it, I don't even know how to finish that sentence. And why aren't you playing along? When someone talks to you, you're supposed to respond." "Respond? Wow, you're rude." Jinx stood, tapped the side of her head twice with the gun, then turned around. With her back to the kid, she waved a hand. "Anyway, good luck, kid." The little girl watched Jinx's bouncing, swaggering back as she walked away. She hesitated, then pulled her hat lower. A moment later, voices started echoing from the alley ahead. "Hey? Why are you following me? Why aren't you talking? Kid, don't you have a home?" In the mid-tier plaza, Logan was asking around and thinking about how to make money. He was looking at a crowded information hub when he spotted a staggering silhouette in the distance, one he knew all too well. Logan froze for a second, then immediately went after it. He pushed through the crowd, following that person farther and farther, until they drifted away from the bustle and left the central area of the mid-tier plaza. Not long after, Logan trailed them into a place that looked like an abandoned dump. A lot of kids were scavenging through piles of trash, small and thin, so skinny it made Logan frown. He went deeper into the dump, rounded a corner, and finally saw a few figures at the far end. A man with a metal chin and hair spiked up like a hedgehog was gripping another man by the throat. "Cough, boss Mark, I really didn't steal your money." The man being choked struggled hard, the wound on his arm glaringly obvious. "Bullshit!" the hedgehog-haired man snapped. "Marson, I only took you in because you were sharp. I trusted you with the money, and this is how you repay me." His right wrist to forearm had been cut off and replaced with a rusted steel blade. He aimed that blade straight at the man's neck. It's not my fault. The Undercity's gone crazy. I really did everything I could." "If you really did everything you could, you wouldn't be standing here. That was my money. My money, you understand? Who the hell knows if you used my money to buy your worthless life?" Mark spat, the saliva landing on Marson's face. Marson's eyes rolled up as he fought for air. But then, in the next second, Marson started coughing violently. His body folded against the wall as he clutched his throat, coughing hard. He thought Mark had finally let him go. He struggled to lift his head, about to thank him. And then, with one eye wider than the other, he saw what was happening. "Fuck! Shoot him! Who the hell are you, messing with the blinding gang?" A massive crash rang out. Half of Mark's upper face was simply gone, blown away. His body flew back and slammed into a heap of trash, going completely still. Of the three lackeys left, one was howling while clutching his lower leg, hugging it in agony. The other two fired in panic. Gunfire erupted, muzzle flashes spitting. And then, in the next instant, the blinding gang member with the handgun jerked as if something had shoved his head. His skull slammed into the wall so hard that half his face smashed into it. Blood and a pale, Viscous mess splattered across the wall. A scream tore through the air. Then, very quickly, the gunfire stopped. Everything went quiet. Marson's body trembled. Still coughing, head lowered, he heard steady footsteps stop in front of him. Damn it! Baron people again? But haven't they already taken all the blinding gang's money? Why are they still doing this? Marson felt despair. The blinding gang was a small gang in the lanes. On normal days, they acted like they ran the place, but compared to the real gangs and the so-called entrepreneurs, they were nothing. Just a slightly bigger bug among bugs. Now that the Undercity had turned chaotic, the gangs and the Baron's men were everywhere. Even the lanes had become a wasteland. They claimed they were searching for someone, but once those people stormed into your turf, how could anything good come of it? What a goddamn nightmare. Maybe Logan, that bastard, was right. Zaun had changed. It had become even more wrong than before. Then again, weren't we always wrong? Marson thought that, feeling like his life was over. But then he felt someone lift his arm, and his weight shifted. He ended up leaning against a skinny body. What are you thinking about? You look so serious. A familiar voice. Marson turned his head and saw a face he recognized. Why, you? Logan? Oh my god, how is it you? Marson, Logan said, looking at him, you've really been having a rough time. Logan smiled. Downstairs, on a battered couch with a hole torn in it, Marson sat with his head lowered. A bandage had already been wrapped around his arm. Next to him sat a small kid wearing a hat. Just like him, she didn't dare speak. She sat obediently with her hands on her knees. Logan glanced at the little girl. The hat that looked like Tima's was especially noticeable, then looked at Jinx. You went out to mess around, fine, but why did you bring someone back? That's what I want to ask you. Jinx shot back. Why did you bring someone back? He's Marson. You forgot him already. Marson. Jinx shrugged. Kinda remember. And as for her, she's the one who insisted on following me, okay. Sitting with Jinx, Logan was speechless. Whatever. We'll do it like this for now, Logan thought it through and said. We've still got quite a bit of money. 2 more mouths and one of them's a little kid, won't eat that much. At most, Marson would stay for a day or 2. Logan had no intention of keeping him around. And that little girl, since Jinx had already brought her back, was Logan really going to chase her out? Chase out a kid who looked like she was, at most, 8 years old? Logan didn't think he could do that. Earlier, just seeing the kid scavenging in that dump had made him want to help. He'd only managed to hold himself back. Even so, Logan was still a little unhappy about how Jinx had brought someone home like she was picking up a stray animal. People weren't animals. They weren't pets, either. If Jinx brought someone back, then she had to take care of them properly. You brought her here, so you're responsible, Logan said. Jinx, you need to take care of her. Take care of her? Are you kidding? Jinx snapped, crossing one leg over the other and flicking her braids. No way. That's a pain. I'm not taking care of a kid. And beside them, watching Logan and Jinx banter, Marson finally couldn't hold it in anymore. Forget that, Logan, she. Marson glanced at Jinx, then asked, why is she here with you? Jinx, who'd been lounging lazily a second ago, shot to her feet. Her eyes turned unfriendly as she stared at Marson. What's that supposed to mean, like I can't be here? That's a long story, Logan said with a smile. Chapter 16, Logan's Ragtag Crew. So you're saying your meeting with her was just an accident? Marson glanced at Jinx, then back at Logan, and the more he looked, the more something felt off. This was weird. Really weird. First of all, why was Logan suddenly so strong? He'd wiped out the guys Marson was terrified of in just a few moves. And second, how the hell was Jinx, that terrifying lunatic, actually behaving and sticking close to Logan? No, wait. Compared to Logan suddenly getting stronger, the truly mind-blowing part was that Jinx was actually listening to him, okay. Among the gangs in the lanes, who didn't know that Zaun's godfather had a blue-haired psychopath under his thumb? How many gangs, how many Barons, how many Undercity thugs had gotten themselves killed by that woman? The Firelights had flat out said she was a maniac, and they'd clashed with her more than once. And the underworld also whispered that whenever Piltover up top had some huge incident, there was an 80% chance that Crazy Woman was involved. And now? That same crazy woman was leaning against Logan's back, calmly pinching a tiny snack between her fingers and popping it into her mouth. Marson genuinely couldn't imagine how Logan had pulled off something like this, making a lunatic quiet down. Jinx, take her to get a bath first, Logan said. He had no idea what was going through Marson's head. He just reached back and patted Jinx on the shoulder. Because the little kid sitting quietly on the couch kept tipping forward, then swaying back, her face screaming, "I'm about to pass out." Logan checked the time, already past 9 at night. Give her a bath. Jinx immediately wanted to argue on reflex, but then like she remembered something she actually nodded. Fine, fine. I'll do it. As if she'd found something amusing in the idea, she hopped off her stool and waved at the little girl. Hey, brat! Come here. The little girl slid off the couch without a word, tugged her cap lower over her head, and hurried after Jinx. She moved in like she was about to hug Jinx's leg, but Jinx pressed a hand on top of her head to stop her. Don't get that close. I showered yesterday. The little girl froze, her eyes dimming for a moment. But then Jinx's next words and the way she moved made the kid's eyes light up again. Hey, mute kid, do you like the stuff on me? Here's a secret, these tattoos aren't real. But if you like them, I can draw one on you too. Same style as mine. Jinx rubbed the cloud design on her abdomen. With a bit of pressure, the pattern faded noticeably. I really like drawing. Then she reached out and scrubbed the little girl's head hard, messing up her damp hair. Logan, hearing that, immediately looked shocked. Wait, those were drawn on? Seriously, Logan hadn't known Jinx's tattoos were just painted on. He'd assumed they were real tattoos because in Zaun, tattoos weren't exactly forbidden. Seeing a kid with a few wasn't strange at all. But if they were drawn on, that was great. Logan's expression went a little weird as his thoughts drifted off into the distance. Honestly, Logan didn't even like tattoos in general. What kind of decent person would want to cosplay Rise the Rune Mage on their skin? But temporary tattoo stickers were different. Those were basically a bonus fun point. With Jinx gone, Marson's courage finally came creeping back. He took a deep breath, then looked straight at Logan. Logan. There's something I want to say. Go ahead. I don't know how you became this strong, Marson said seriously. He hesitated, then forced the words out. But Logan. I want to ask you for something. I want to work for you. Work for me. Logan understood immediately. He opened his mouth to respond, but Marson cut in first. You saw it yourself. The blinding gang is finished. Mark died by your hand, and me? I can't survive in the lanes alone. Guys like me can only huddle together with others, do whatever it takes just to keep breathing. Otherwise we end up as a screw that the people in power tighten and loosen whenever they feel like it. And I'm sick of it, Logan. I'm really sick of that life. Marson's good hand went to his head, fingers tangling in his hair as he squeezed out the next words. You're different. With the strength you have now, you can take territory. You can stand on your own and become a boss. Zaun was the kind of place where the bigger your fist, the louder your voice. Money and authority were controlled by one thing. Power. Just me. Logan frowned. And you? Logan looked at Marson and saw streams of emotional energy spilling off him, steadily filling the Spirit Blossom energy bar. The amount and quality were nowhere near what Jinx had been providing, but it was still far beyond what Logan absorbed from most people. A thought hit him. Maybe the more intensely someone directed their emotions at him, the more the Spirit Blossom bar increased? If that was true, then it wasn't strange that Jinx gave so much. Jinx was too pure. In her world, there were only 3 kinds of people: strangers, the dead, and family. She didn't care about strangers. She couldn't interact with the dead. Which meant the only place she could pour her emotions was family. Was that why Jinx had become Logan's #1 supporter? If Logan's guess about the Spirit Blossom bar was right, then maybe Marson's proposal really was something he needed to think about. Building a faction meant expanding his influence, increasing the Spirit Blossom bar, and gaining more chances to descend. The only reason Logan could sit here safely right now was because of Spirit Blossom. That was his foundation. If he was right, then yeah, he really should start preparing his own crew. Because Logan didn't plan on working for Silco. He wasn't going to join Silco's side just because he had a good relationship with Jinx. But at the same time, Logan also wasn't going to join Piltover like Six did. Whether Silco was right or wrong, people argued about it endlessly online. Scroll through a few discussion boards and you'd see posts judging Silco everywhere. Opinions were polarized, but the summary was always the same. Silco really did want to lead Zaun to reclaim its dignity, but his extreme methods also brought disaster to Zaun. He let the Chembarons oppress the common people. He stared at the distant future, while ignoring the cries for help right beside him. Yet, big shots only looked at the long-term end results. But Logan wasn't a big shot. He cared more about right now. Logan lifted his head and sat up straighter, looking at Marson. "Tell me your plan, Marson." "I'm listening." "You're not alone," Marson said quickly. "You remember Willa and the others? And Mansu? They're still alive. They're out there struggling inside different gangs. I can find them. We'll all be yours, we'll work for you. We can rebuild a new lanes." He added seriously, "This whole thing taught me something. Maybe the Firelights were right. We can learn from what they stand for. But just having people isn't enough." Logan shook his head. Zaun didn't lack people willing to risk their lives. What it lacked was power. Weapons were what mattered most. Marson narrowed his eyes, thinking. "You mean weapons? What else?" Marson's expression turned odd. "But, you've already got her, don't you? In Zaun, is there anyone smarter or a better weapons maker than her?" "Right. He had Jinx." Logan nodded. He told Marson to gather people first. If the numbers were big enough, Logan would seriously consider it. Marson immediately stood up. "Marson, your injuries aren't even healed. You're not going to rest for a couple of days." Logan tried to stop him. Marson refused. His reason was simple. "No. Logan, did you see the way Powder was looking at me earlier? If I stay here, there's a real chance she comes out at night and puts a bullet in me. Powder's changed. She's not that greedy little kid we knew anymore. She's Jinx now, Silco's Jinx. I don't know how you deal with her, but you need to be careful." "Enough, Marson." Logan cut him off, impatient now, his voice low. "Powder or Jinx, what does it matter? She's good to me, so I'm good to her. Does it matter what name she uses, who she belongs to, what she's done? Even Vander Jinx would still love him. You can go now. When you've handled it, come back and find me." Logan didn't feel like explaining further. He knew Jinx had done a lot of wrong things. But was Marson's ass clean? Was Logan's? In Zaun, almost nobody's was clean. Even Vander had made plenty of stupid mistakes. And besides, there was still time. If even Six could forgive Jinx, then who was Marson to say it couldn't be done? Marson looked at Logan, saw how serious he was, swallowed the rest of his words, nodded, and left. At the same time, up on the second floor around the corner, Jinx, who'd been eavesdropping for a while, heard the first floor go quiet. She lowered her head and looked at the little kid beside her, now dressed in Jinx's t-shirt. On her tiny body, it looked like a dress, hanging all the way down to her calves. She was skinny, but Jinx wasn't short either. She was about 164 centimeters. The little kid was staring up at her. Jinx made a couple of quiet huffing sounds, then reached out and aggressively messed up the kid's wet hair, stopping her from seeing Jinx's face. The little girl tried to lift her head harder, not understanding why Jinx suddenly did that. She was smart, otherwise she never would have escaped from a Chembaron. After just one day together, she'd already learned something. Jinx only ruffled her hair when she was happy. And right now, she was ruffling it. The little girl saw Jinx smiling gentle, eyes clear, so she opened her mouth too and gave Jinx a grin, revealing the gap where one tooth was missing. Jinx frowned and put on an annoyed expression. "That smile is ugly. Where's your front tooth?" Even as she said it, the hand on the little girl's head rubbed even harder, twice more, like she couldn't stop herself. Chapter 17, A Family of Three. Over the next few days, Logan lived a quiet, steady life at home while exchanging messages back and forth with Marson. The entresol wasn't safe anymore either. The sump was in chaos. Small gangs were being driven upward to escape the Chembarons, like big fish eating small fish and small fish eating shrimp. One wave after another. Now the entresol was packed with people, and the moment those guys came up, they started causing trouble. You could tell just from the fact that, these past few days, you barely saw any pileties coming down to the entresol at all. As for going to the promenade? Come on. bringing Jinx in front of the enforcers. Even if Logan didn't know how Silco had managed to bury all the things Jinx had done, Logan wasn't about to gamble on it. The promenade connected directly to Piltover Cross a bridge and you were in topside. The enforcers held the checkpoint right there, and every day they ran patrols and inspections on Zaunites passing through the promenade. Ridiculous as it was, that was just the reality. In front of Piltover, Zaun had no voice and no autonomy either. The promenade was the clearest example of that. Which was probably why Silco wanted Zaunites to unite and face outward together. Getting searched, patted down, having your goods inspected in your own home turf, what the hell kind of situation was that? And over these few days, Logan also learned the name of the little girl Jinx had picked up. Her name was Isha, a kid born and raised in the sump. As for why she'd run to the entresol, no need to get into the details. Isha was 1 year older than Logan had guessed. And she was extremely smart. Just the way she could read an adult's emotions off their face and respond accordingly at her age proved she was more mature and sharper than most kids. Quick as a whip. And she had a scary kind of talent, too. The toys Jinx made, Logan picked them up and messed with them, and realized he couldn't even figure them out. Because those little gadgets, slapped together from trash and scrap metal, looked crude on the outside, but their internal mechanisms were insanely intricate. Logan couldn't figure them out. But Isha could. Not only could she use them properly, she could even take apart Jinx's toys and study how they worked. And now she was copying Jinx, starting to build her own little gadgets too. In Jinx's words, weirdos like her and Isha were what real Zaun kids looked like. Logan and Six were the same kind of idiot, only good at throwing punches, dumb as hell. A Zaun kid was supposed to learn how to stitch together a future using whatever was around them. Jinx, Isha, dinner. Logan called from the kitchen on the first floor as he carried the food to the table. They were short on money, so he couldn't buy a lot of seasonings. Still, pan-fried meat patties with a bit of salt and pepper weren't going to taste bad. For the staple, there was bread, not the sump kind mixed with sawdust and grit, but a big chunk of wheat bread that had been sitting around a while, tough as a brick. It was hard and dry to chew, but if you paired it with a rich mushroom soup, it was perfect. Dunk the bread in, let it soften a little, then chase it down with a bite of meat patty. Decent dinner. Coming. A high, bright voice rang out from the second floor. Logan looked up and saw Jinx laughing as she ran ahead barefoot in shorts, with Isha right behind her, arms out, excited. Isha was copying Jinx, barefoot too, with that cool little expression on her face as she chased her. Even though the house had been cleaned, this was Zaun. No matter how clean you made it, give it half a day and everything got coated in Zaun grey again. Jinx's feet were already dusted with blackish grime, and Logan couldn't help looking twice. Pale. Soft-looking. Rounded toes. That sharp contrast between white skin and black dust. How to put it? Contrast like that was seriously great. We're eating this again? Awesome. I like meat. Jinx hopped up onto a chair, sat cross-legged, grabbed her own foot in her hands, and rocked back and forth while staring at the food with an excited little grin. Isha, the little mute, was also hilariously supportive. She picked up her knife and fork and shook them. Ah! Ah! Jinx let go of her toes and reached for the meat patty. Smack! Logan slapped her hand away and stared at her sternly. Forgot already? Jinx hissed, pulling her hand back and blowing on it while she muttered, so many stupid little rules. But even as she complained, she didn't actually hate the rules Logan had set for the house. If anything, she was a little happy. She liked the feeling of being kept in line, of being looked after. It made her feel like she mattered. So she called Isha over and took the kid to wash their hands. When they came back to the table, Logan said, "Dig in," and all three of them lowered their heads to eat while chatting. "Logan, I finished the newest batch of weapons," Jinx said with her mouth full, eating with absolutely zero manners. No promises on quality. But for shooting idiots, they'll work. Isha nodded along and made a couple of agreeing sounds. And against real gang professionals? Logan asked. Don't make it hard for me, okay? We don't even have decent tools here. You really think I can take junk I picked up from a scrapyard, slap it together, and have it beat weapons other people spent a fortune making? Don't be dumb. Jinx rolled her eyes at him. I might be a genius, but you're definitely broke. She was already doing amazing, all right? She'd assembled a whole batch of weapons from pure scrap, simple iron launchers that fired sharp metal slugs, grappling hooks that shot out fast, not very accurate, but crazy speed, and rope traps that would snag someone when they hit something after being thrown. The stuff she'd cobbled together was already impressive. But to take that gear and fight a professional gang, against their proper weapons? For that, she'd have to go back to Silco because Logan was so broke he couldn't even provide halfway decent materials. So it wasn't that she sucked. Logan sucked. Isha clearly agreed with Jinx. She even hopped down from her chair, ran over to Logan, pulled something out, and handed it to him. "This is?" Logan asked. Jinx explained from the side, "Isha made that. Smoke bomb. See the button on the metal ball? Press it, throw it, and it sprays out a thick cloud of colored paint. You can make weapons too." Logan was genuinely surprised. He didn't really understand Isha. In all the Runeterra lore Logan knew, and even in the Twin Cities War he'd never seen a character named Isha. He'd briefly wondered if she was someone who showed up in Season 2, but he immediately dismissed the thought. No way it'd be that perfect. Still, Logan liked Isha. She was quiet, smart, considerate, and with her around, Jinx's mental state was better. Not that Jinx was unstable with Logan. She'd only had 2 real episodes since he'd been with her. But Logan was an adult. He couldn't truly calm down and play the little games with her the way she wanted. Isha could. She liked playing with Jinx. Back and forth like that, Jinx really had become something like a big sister to Isha. Put it this way, if Logan gave Jinx a sense of safety, then Isha gave her a sense of being understood. And why did Isha like Jinx so much? Well, Logan figured, if he'd been through what Isha had as a kid, saved by a pretty, slightly unhinged older girl, then helped with bathing, sleeping together under the same roof, yet, he'd probably cling to her too. "That's impressive," Logan said with a smile, reaching out to ruffle Isha's head. Isha looked up, smiled back, then ran tap 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 back to her seat, climbed onto the chair, and started eating again. But the moment she got back to the table, Isha froze, staring at her plate. All that was on it was a chunk of bread with a jagged bite taken out. Where's my huge meat patty?" Isha looked at Jinx and saw Jinx turn slightly away, showing only her side profile, her jaw moving as she silently chewed. "Ah!" Isha instantly realized what happened and reached out to shove Jinx. Jinx giggled. "That's what you get for running around everywhere. I confiscated your meat patty." Logan watched the scene and laughed too. It felt a little weird, but it was really nice. In a strange, dangerous environment, with Isha and Jinx beside him, Logan actually felt a hint of home. Was the place he used to live home? No. Not really. Logan smiled and shook his head, then split his own meat patty in half and put it on Isha's plate. Isha's little angry face immediately softened. Logan looked at her. "Eat up." Touched, right? This household still ran on Logan, obviously. But then Isha did something that made Logan's smile freeze in place. She speared half the meat patty with her fork and patted Jinx on the back. Jinx turned around and looked at her. Isha tipped her chin up, cool as ever. Jinx opened her mouth, and Isha fed her the meat. The little kid beamed, delighted. And Logan, watching from the side. "What about me?" Chapter 18, 6, She's Here. The sump hadn't been stable lately. Topside had already had 2 major incidents, pushing the relationship between Piltover and Zaun back into a tense stalemate. And this time, the sump didn't even bother hiding it right in front of Piltover, it openly showed another face of itself. Starting a few days ago, ordinary people in the sump stopped going outside and hid in their homes. Even so, gang members would still kick their doors open, claim it was a security inspection, and then raid the place, dirty hands taking whatever they could. The residents were furious, but they didn't dare say a word. Piltover's enforcers didn't intervene directly in what was happening in the sump, because they understood perfectly well, whatever was going on deep in Zaun this time was a huge mess and dangerous. Without a direct, absolute order from their superiors, they weren't about to risk their lives just to do routine patrols. How much did they even get paid in a month? Was it worth dying for? And for Zaunites themselves, this whole incident was just another display of how things worked now that Silco was on top. Ever since Silco took over, Zaun had completely changed. People had gotten richer, but it had also gotten even more chaotic. As long as power stayed in his hands, he didn't care about turf wars under him, especially the little gangs killing each other. In fact, Silco would even deliberately encourage it, using the hatred those small gangs had for each other to redirect their hatred away from him, maintaining his position and authority. And under those circumstances, a new gang appeared in the sump. A group of young people who used to belong to the lanes gathered together, carrying weapons that looked like junk but worked frighteningly well. They began seizing territory at high speed, building their own force. And on the turf they took, there was often a piece of graffiti, a blue and pink flower, like shattered petals. But nobody cared. Because in Zaun, new gangs popped up every day. On the second floor of the last drop, Silco stared at Sevika with anger in his voice. So tell me, how many days has it been now? It's been 10 days, Sevika answered with her head lowered. Most of the doodles on her face had faded, but faint traces remained. The fluorescent marker mess Jinx had drawn on her really did last an absurdly long time. Silco picked up a document on the table, paperwork sent over from a shimmer plant in the west. He looked over the records and frowned, then asked Sevika. Where are they? Sevika replied, they're not in the sump anymore. I've checked everywhere they could be. We turned every house upside down. We didn't even spare the orphanage. There's no trace of them. I thought you weren't someone who made excuses, Silco said. So what are you doing right now? This is the second time. He tapped the tabletop with a finger, set the document down, and looked at Sevika. If you've searched the sump, then search the entresol. If they're not at the entresol, then go to the promenade. Do I really need to teach you how to do something this simple? Sevika fell silent. After a long moment, she raised her head and met Silco's gaze. And then what? If we still don't find Jinx at the entresol or the promenade, are you going to send people topside to look for her? Silco. His good eye narrowed. His voice turned ice cold. Am I to understand you have a problem with me? Of course I do. Sevika took a hard breath and didn't look away. Ever since that brat grew up, no, she hasn't even grown up, she's still just a kid. Every time she causes some stupid disaster, you're the one cleaning up after her. You really think she sees you as a father? Or is it that you can't live without this daughter of yours anymore? And right now, you want to send people to the entresol, and to the promenade, at a time like this? Sevika's voice sharpened. Our smuggled goods are still sitting in a topside precinct. A lot of our people are still locked up. Silco, what matters more to you? Her, or Zaun? Sevika asked, finally saying the question she'd wanted to ask for years. Do you even remember what you told me back then? Ever since Jinx got older, Sevika had been forced to deal with her messes over and over. The trouble Jinx caused, the asses she couldn't wipe clean, Silco always made Sevika clean it for her. What the hell was Sevika, some kind of disposable wipe? Enough, Silco said, his gaze dark and venomous, like a snake watching prey. I'll forgive you. This once, consider it payment for that arm. His eyes flicked to Sevika's mechanical limb. Then he continued, calm and deadly. But if there's a next time, you won't be standing here talking to me. Silco stared at her, completely serious. I mean it. That threat shut Sevika up. But then she said, immediately after, is that so? Then I genuinely don't know what kind of choice Jinx will make when the time comes. A choice? Silco repeated. Was Sevika saying Jinx would choose Logan, or choose him? Silco scoffed and spoke casually, dismissively. She's with that boy on a whim. That's just how she is. She plays around, she does whatever she feels like. That's not who I'm talking about, Sevika said. Silco's brow tightened. Then what are you saying? Speak clearly. Sevika's voice turned flat and cold. It's 6. She's back. The moment those words fell, Silco's pupils shrank violently. In a street district of the lanes, Caitlyn paced back and forth with her hands behind her back, head lowered, worry written all over her face. Should I give up on her? No. I couldn't. She was the one I brought down here, so I had to be the one to bring her back. But in Zaun, what could I even do by myself? I hated the powerhouse Kiraman gave me. I believed everyone was equal. But now that I didn't have that family power behind me, I couldn't do anything at all. Caitlyn felt torn. And from a shadowed corner nearby, a weak voice spoke up. Can you stop walking back and forth in front of me? It's annoying. Understand? What am I supposed to do? Caitlyn hurried over the moment she heard Six's voice. She crouched down and looked at her. Six opened her eyes, coughed once, and rasped, What do you mean, what are you supposed to do? How would I know what you're supposed to do? As she spoke, Six's expression suddenly went distant. She looked past Caitlyn's shoulder, like she was seeing something else entirely. Her eyes drifted, her voice softening. I shouldn't have left you. Caitlyn froze. She took out a towel, pressed it firmly against Six's abdomen, and whispered, "It's okay. I can tell you're a good person." After those words, Six's eyes slowly closed again. She slipped back into unconsciousness. Caitlyn stood up, at a loss. But right as she was standing there, stunned, a group of people suddenly emerged and surrounded them. They wore ragged clothes, obviously Zaunites, but their mental state was different from the people Caitlyn had run into on the way here. They looked thin, but alert. Lively. Especially the brown-haired young man in front. No, he hadn't been ruined by Shimmer. The moment they closed in, Caitlyn snapped her rifle up and aimed. "Stop! I'm Enforcer Caitlyn." Her voice was tight with nerves. Somehow, at a time like this, she suddenly remembered what Six had said right after they left Stillwater Hold, that Zaunites would strip her clean and devour her whole. "Enforcer. Relax, cop. We're not here to hurt you," the young man said, raising his hands. He took another step forward. "I said stop. One more step and I'll shoot." "Wait please, listen to me. I'm Marson. I'm Six's friend." His face was earnest as he spoke. "The one behind you, that's Six, right? We know her." Caitlyn blinked, startled. Marson kept his hands up, expression sincere. Seeing that, Caitlyn slowly lowered her rifle. "She's injured," Caitlyn said. "I know," Marson replied. "I've been following you for a while." Then he turned and gave orders without hesitation. "I know how to treat her. Willa. Manzu. Help me get Six up, we're going back." And Caitlyn stood quietly to the side. She didn't stop them. Chapter 19, Six's alive? "She's looking for me? You followed me the whole way?" "Yes. We saw you taking care of Six. Otherwise, you wouldn't be standing here talking to us right now." Caitlyn stopped short. Her brows knit as she looked at Marson. "You'd dare lay hands on an enforcer?" Marson smiled. "Most of the time? We wouldn't. Who would dare touch you people? But right now it's different. The sump's in chaos. If an enforcer accidentally goes missing down here, who's to say who did it?" He bit down hard on the word accidentally, and it sent a wave of goosebumps up Caitlyn's skin. She rubbed her arms uncomfortably, muttered a couple of words under her breath, and kept following them. Then she watched as they carried Six into a place, and a girl about 160 centimeters tall hurried over. Marson said something to her, and she anxiously pulled something from her pocket. Caitlyn immediately stepped forward to stop them. "Wait, Shimmer. You're going to use Shimmer on her?" Caitlyn couldn't understand it. Wasn't this the thing that turned Zaunites into something that wasn't quite human and not quite a ghost either? What else would we use? Marson shot back. "That's a drug. That's because they used Shimmer wrong." Marson frowned at Caitlyn. "Shimmer isn't just some addictive toy. Used properly, it can be medicine. Now move. Don't make me say it twice." If he hadn't seen her taking care of Six earlier, he really would have been willing to hurt her. Just like he'd told Caitlyn when the sump was this chaotic, if one or two enforcers disappeared, was that really strange? Not long ago, Piltover had an explosion that killed 6 enforcers. Topside didn't know what happened, but the people in the Undercity weren't idiots. It was probably that crazy woman Jinx again. And what was the result? Silco had turned it into an accident and smeared it over until everyone swallowed it. And at a time like this cop dared to come into the lanes alone. Marson honestly didn't know what she was thinking. Was she just stupid? Marson raised a hand. Willa and Manzu stepped in and blocked Caitlyn. Then Marson tipped Shimmer into Six's mouth only a little. He didn't dare use more than that. As soon as Six inhaled it and the effect kicked in, she started screaming in agony. Her eyes snapped open, her pupils dilating wide, then shrinking tight again. Six. Marson called to her. As the purple glow faded from Six's pupils, her focus locked onto Marson's face, then flicked past him to Caitlyn, still being held back. In an instant, Six shot both hands out, grabbed Marson's arm, yanked him in, and hooked an arm around his throat. Wait! Marson slapped at Six's forearm with all his strength. He couldn't breathe and he was shocked. Even as kids, he'd never been able to beat 6. But he hadn't expected that after all these years, he'd still be helpless. He'd always assumed that once they were older, the difference between men and women would mean he could at least take her in a fight. Instead, he got restrained in one move. Marson didn't think he was some powerhouse, but he'd spent years in the blinding gang, fought plenty of fights. And yet right now, he was being held like a chicken. If it weren't for the cop who'd come with 6 being restrained by Willa and Manzu, if 6 wasn't wary because of her, then if 6 tightened this arm, would she snap his neck? Marson swallowed his shock. What kind of freak strength was this? These sisters really didn't have a single normal bone between them. Let them release her, 6 said. 6, it's me, Marson. Marson rasped out. Me? Marson from the lanes. You? Marson choked, furious and miserable all at once. 6 froze. The pressure eased slightly. Only then did she really look around and she saw Willa and Manzu. Willa. It's me, Willa said, nodding at 6. Boss. You, how is it you? 6 released her arm. Marson immediately bent over and coughed hard. Once he could breathe again, he turned and sat on the floor, looking up at the 6 who was pushing herself to her feet. This is what we should be asking you, he said, deadpan. How is it you? 6, weren't you dead? How did you suddenly show up here and cause that huge commotion? That's a long story, 6 said, rubbing her head. Caitlyn walked over to her side, then stood slightly behind her without speaking. But more importantly, Marson, I need to ask you something. 6 stared at him, frantic now. My sister. Powder. Where is she? Where is she? Powder. Marson thought for a moment. Yeah. She's with our boss right now. Your boss? 6 blanked. Then all the information she'd gathered these past few days, plus what Sevika had told her, slammed together in her head. Her expression exploded into rage. Her eyes reddened, and she lunged forward, straddling Marson as she grabbed him by the collar like a cornered predator. She raised her right fist and roared. Are you working for Silco? Fuck, who told you my boss is Silco? Marson yelled back. How are you still like this? He grimaced. Let me finish talking, all right. 10 minutes later, Marson told 6 everything he knew. 6's reply was a look of pure disbelief. She grabbed her head with both hands, like her thoughts were tangled into a knot. Logan? Wasn't he your underling before? How did that flip around? Marson started to explain, but 6 cut him off like she didn't care. Whatever. That doesn't matter. 6 leaned closer, urgency burning in her voice. Marson, I need your help. Take me to see Logan. I have to find my sister. Caitlyn, listening beside them, hesitated like she wanted to speak, and couldn't. She wanted to ask 6 what this whole trip had even been for, because Caitlyn had come down here and accomplished nothing. She hadn't met Silco, the suspected mastermind. And she hadn't found the wanted criminal who'd blown up a building in Piltover. Right now. Marson shook his head. 6, do you think you're the only one who spotted you? Silco's people are searching everywhere for you. You can't go anywhere. 6 shook her head immediately. No. I have to find Powder. If you go out there right now, you're not just making trouble for yourself, you're making trouble for us, too. Do you understand? Marson pressed a hand to 6's shoulder. Stay here. I'll pass word to Jin Powder. I'm going up right now to tell the boss and Powder you're here. Don't worry. You don't get it. 6's voice cracked with desperation. I can't wait even a second. I have to see her with my own eyes. I've been waiting for this day for years. I have to find my sister. You've already waited that long, what's half a day, or one more day? Marson snapped back. If Silco finds you right now, everything's finished. 6, wake up. We're not lying to you. Willa couldn't hold it in anymore. She stepped up to 6. I understand how you feel, Willa said, steady and serious. But think about what we're telling you. 6 slowly calmed down. Marson finally let out a breath. He gave 6's shoulder 2 firm pats and couldn't help laughing. Relax. She's safe. The boss is taking good care of her. And you really think we don't know how important she is to you? When we were kids, you beat the hell out of us plenty of times because of her. Sorry, Marson, Six said, forcing a bitter smile as she nodded. I lost control. Yet. I'll go pass the message, Marson said, rising to his feet. Six watched him talk to the others for a moment, then leave the hideout alone. Six's eyes went empty. In all those years in prison, she'd truly believed Powder was dead. The entresol. In Logan's home, down in the first-floor living room, Isha sat on the floor with a cap on, holding a blueprint and studying it seriously. On the paper was something shaped like a can, simple looking, but the design was incredibly clever. Make the wildest thing possible using the simplest materials, that was Jinx's philosophy. Right now, Isha looked between the blueprint and the jar beside her. She worked hard at trying to pry it open, but couldn't. Still, with the blueprint in hand, Isha felt like learning how to open it was only a matter of time. She jammed a screwdriver against the metal jar and worked at it with all her strength. Her little ears twitched. She heard movement upstairs. Her hearing had always been unusually sharp. That was part of how she'd escaped adults again and again. What? Six's looking for me. Where is she? Where is my sister? What do you mean calm down? How am I supposed to calm down? Six is looking for me. My sister is looking for me. I thought she was dead. No, I'm going to find her right now. Jinx's sharp voice made Isha tilt her head up, staring toward the ceiling. Don't panic, Jinx. That was Logan's voice. Isha set the jar down and listened even harder. I'm going down with you. We have to avoid Silco's eyes. Yes, Silco lied to me. Why would he lie to me? Logan, he told me Six was dead. Marson, are you sure you saw Six? Are you sure? Jinx, it's Six. I'm sure. But she also had someone with her. Shut it, Marson. Yes, boss. Isha didn't really understand the conversation. The little kid just tilted her head, still staring up. But then she heard footsteps. Then Jinx and Logan came downstairs together along with that guy Isha didn't really care about one way or another, moving with them. Hey, come here. We have to leave, Jinx said the moment she spotted Isha, waving her over. She wasn't smiling. Her expression was complicated, tight and messy. But Isha didn't hesitate. The second Jinx called her, she grabbed the blueprint off the floor, clutched the jar, and ran straight to her. Logan followed behind them, his expression just as complicated. The story had shifted. And it wasn't a small shift, either. Maybe from the moment Logan met Jinx, the events of the Twin Cities had already started changing. And now, Marson and the Spirit Blossom gang had run into Six and Caitlyn. That part had been outside Logan's expectations. But it was a good thing. Because instead of letting Six and Jinx reunite through a mess of uncertain accidents, Logan could control their reunion himself. Logan remembered clearly, in the show, after Six got out of Stillwater Hold, there was only one thing on her mind: finding Jinx. But all the accidents afterward created distance between them. And that distance became the fuse that truly lit the war between the two cities. Logan had cut Marson off earlier because the moment Jinx heard Six, her mental state visibly went wrong. If she hadn't started trusting Logan these past days, and if Isha wasn't here, Jinx would have already gone tearing down into the Undercity to find Six, instead of listening to Logan. Even now, she was anxious and shaken, but she was still forcing herself to hold back. But what if Marson had finished his sentence? He'd said Six had someone with her. Logan knew exactly who that someone was. Caitlyn. If Jinx found out her sister had brought a piled-over cop to look for her, Jinx would almost certainly start spiraling. She'd just blown up a building, killed 6 enforcers, and stolen Hextech crystals and a notebook. And now Six suddenly showed up with a female enforcer? It would be shocking if Jinx didn't misunderstand. Logan took a deep breath and looked at Marson. Let's go, Marson. Lead the way. Take us to Six. Chapter 20, The Sisters Reunite. Logan tries to stop Jinx. At 8 in the evening, on Zaun's entresol, along the main road leading down into the sump, Marson walked in front. All of a sudden, he lifted one hand and gave a small, subtle wave behind him. Not far back, 3 figures, 2 adults and 1 child, were following him at a distance. Logan and Jinx had both put on cloaks. There was no other reason. The sump currently had wanted notices for both Logan and Jinx. If they didn't pull their hoods up to hide their faces, there was no way they'd make it deep into the sump safely. And as for the lanes, that was an even more intense place. Right now, the streets and alleys there were plastered with missing person posters for Logan and Jinx. Marson came back to Logan and Jinx. Jinx was biting her thumbnail, her pink nail polish now uneven and jagged, chewed into something like a shark's serrated teeth. Logan glanced at her restlessness. Isha was hugging Jinx's leg too, looking up at her every so often. She could tell Jinx's emotions were wrong, too. "We can't go down this way, boss," Marson said to Logan. "They're checking even harder than they were a few days ago. We'll need another route." Then he added, "Silco's people have come up to the entresol. I'm guessing they're hunting Six, but there's no reason for us to risk the main road." "Then we take another route," Logan said. "It's Zaun, like we're going to run out of ways to get somewhere." As he spoke, he pulled Jinx close by the shoulder and gave her a firm squeeze. Jinx lifted her head to look at him. Her eyes were murky bright one second, dim the next, like her mind couldn't hold steady. But when she met Logan's gaze, she snapped back into focus. She tilted her head slightly, asking with her eyes, "What?" Logan asked quietly, "Can you still do parkour through the fissures?" "Logan, I could do that when I was 8, Jinx said. "Good." Logan nodded. "Then let's move." He crouched and looked at Isha. Logan opened his arms and patted his chest. "Come here." Isha looked at him and instantly understood. She opened her arms too, stepped forward and hugged him. Logan lifted her up, and the group headed for another path. There were a lot of ways into the sump. The main road was just the easiest. For Zaun's kids, not having a road was normal, finding one was everyday life. Soon, before 9, they reached the sump's outskirts. Logan set Isha down. Breathing in the familiar stench of the sump, he felt a little lightheaded. "It's only been like 10 days, Logan said, looking around with a sigh. "And this place already looks completely different." Beside him, Jinx kept her head down, silent. Isha pinched her little nose. Then a sweaty figure appeared with his tongue out, panting. Marson wiped at his face, saw Logan and Jinx, took a deep breath, and said, "Let's go. This way." "During this time, I pulled the guys together," Marson said as they walked. "They brought in their friends too. The Spirit Blossom gang's grown. With the weapons Jinx made for us and with the lanes falling into chaos, we took the chance to grab some turf. We're at 20-something people now," he continued. "Not enough to compare to the big gangs, but in the lanes we count as a small force." Logan nodded. "Our current hideout is on the outer edge of the lanes," Marson said. "It used to belong to the Spider Gang, the ones who ran liquor smuggling. But now, they got swallowed up, same as the Blinding Gang." His voice carried a hint of bleak amazement. "In Zaun, 10 days was a small cycle. Small gangs rarely got a chance to rise. The guy drinking with you in a bar today might be dead in some gutter tomorrow." That wasn't strange at all. After about half an hour, they reached the outer edge of the lanes. And down here, wearing a cloak and hiding your face wasn't anything special. People like that were everywhere. So Logan's group entered without being stopped, and Marson continued leading them. Soon, they arrived. Inside a broken iron fence, sheets of metal and scrap frames had been piled into a maze-like layout. Deep inside were lots of tents, the kind drifters used. At the center was a larger tent, with blue and pink flower petals sprayed across it in graffiti. "We're here," Marson said, stepping aside with an open-palmed gesture. Logan looked at Jinx with concern. He saw her lips tremble slightly. Her eyes darted away. Someone outside the tents noticed Logan and Jinx, slipped into the big tent, and said something. And then, a woman with pink hair and a jacket burst out. Jinx saw her too. The moment Jinx laid eyes on that woman, her expression shattered completely. The word well-behaved didn't belong anywhere near Jinx. In front of Logan, in front of Isha, she was always mischievous, jumpy, half-manic, her nerves always on a hair trigger. But right now, Logan truly saw good in her. Her eyes stuck to the pink-haired woman like they were glued there. Jinx lifted one foot, then set it down again quickly. Her hands twisted together in front of her, almost like she was praying, and she stepped forward, careful, cautious, just one step. But the pink-haired woman was already rushing over. She ran fast, arms thrown wide, cutting through the crowd. She ignored Logan and Isha completely and wrapped Jinx in a crushing hug. "Powder." Six held Jinx tight, pulling her hard into her chest, one hand pressed firmly to the back of Jinx's head. "Six," Jinx whispered. Six answered by hugging even tighter, her voice gentle. "It's me, Powder. It's me. Is it really you? Jinx still didn't dare believe it. Her voice was fragile, careful. Really? Six loosened her grip and looked straight into Jinx's eyes. You can't recognize your own sister anymore. Six said softly. It's me. Six. It really is me. I'm back. I'm right here. But I thought you were dead. Six froze. Then she quickly cupped Jinx's face, stroking her cheeks with trembling apology in her touch. I'm sorry, Powder. I wanted to come back for you. I swear I did. But someone took me. Marcus? Jinx asked. I don't know him, Six said. But it doesn't matter. I never thought I'd get to see you again. And she hugged Jinx again. I'm sorry, Powder. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have left you. That was my fault. Hearing Six's gentle voice, Jinx raised her arms and hugged back as hard as she could, burying her face against Six's shoulder. Her emotions finally broke. She started to sob, and clear tears spilled from her eyes. When they separated, Jinx looked at Six with wet lashes, lips pressed tight. But everything changed after you left. She couldn't meet Six's eyes. Her hands folded awkwardly in front of her. Her posture collapsed inward, her slender frame curling like a child who knew she'd done something wrong. And I changed too. Six reached out, guiding Jinx's face back toward her. I know, Powder. I know. Six's voice was steady. Whatever you did, it was to survive. Me too. It's okay. The important thing is we're together again. Marson lifted his head and rubbed at his eyes without realizing it. And Logan felt his nose sting, too. Back when he watched this part, it had hit him hard. Six really was a good sister. Just like she'd said, she went back for Powder immediately. She was just taken by Marcus. How old had Six been then? Barely a teenager. Powder had meant well and done the worst possible thing. Six had told her again and again not to follow, but Powder didn't listen, and it got people killed, friends, and Vander, the man Six saw as a father. Of course Six would lose control. But she calmed down quickly, too. And after all those years in prison, she'd never stopped thinking about Powder. If not for the sudden appearance of Logan's thought cut off. He looked toward the tent and saw a tall figure stepping out. Damn it! She really came. Logan's mouth twitched. The classic three women make a whole drama scene was about to start. A beautiful woman with long blue hair, wearing an enforcer uniform, stared in disbelief and spoke. Six, your sister is Jinx. The instant those words landed, Jinx released Six and smoothly reached back toward her hip, pulling out a pistol and aiming it at Caitlyn, her face twisted with shock and rage. Six jolted, immediately blocking Jinx, then turning toward Caitlyn as she walked closer. Listen, I can explain. Caitlyn, we can talk this out. Caitlyn hadn't even gotten a chance to speak. Behind Six, Jinx had already snapped completely. Talk? You want to talk with her? Jinx's voice went sharp, wild. Why are you with a cop? I just blew up topside and stole their stuff, and then you show up, and you brought a cop with you. Are you really thinking about me? You came to find me. Jinx's eyes flashed. No. This is a trap. You're with them, aren't you? She didn't wait for Six to answer. Her voice rose into a scream. Did you forget who killed Mom? Oh my god, now you're with a cop. Shut up. Milo, I don't have time to listen to your bullshit right now. Shut up, shut up. Powder, it's okay, calm down. Six immediately turned to Jinx again, coaxing her. Don't call me that. Jinx screamed. My name is Jinx now. Powder killed herself. No, you shouldn't call yourself Jinx, you. Don't talk to me like I'm a little kid. Jinx lifted the pistol and aimed it at Six's face. Six flinched hard. Then a hand came down and pressed Jinx's arm lower. Jinx turned her head and looked at Logan. Her tilted eyes were dead and empty. You're with her too, right? Seeing Jinx swing the pistol toward Logan, Isha hurried up, trying to stop her. Logan shook his head. We're the same side, he said. Then what are you doing right now? Jinx's voice trembled. You need to listen to Six's explanation. Logan kept his tone calm. She was locked in prison for years. The first thing she did when she got out was come looking for you. If it weren't for that enforcer, she'd still be rotting in there. As Logan spoke, color slowly returned to Jinx's eyes. She looked at Six. He's telling the truth, Six said, glancing at Logan, then back to Jinx. I did everything for you. When Jinx aimed the gun at her, Six had almost exploded too. Six's pain wasn't any smaller than Jinx's. But because she was the older sister, she had to yield. She had to take care of Powder's feelings. And what had Powder just done? Six's emotions tangled into something messy and bitter, but she still spoke carefully. I can explain everything. Okay? Powder, please. Logan leaned close to Jinx and spoke softly in her ear. Listen to me. Powder or Jinx, it doesn't matter. You're still her little sister, and she's still your sister. Do you understand? You've got a gun on her right now, but can you really pull the trigger? Jinx went silent. Then, clack. The pistol dropped to the ground. Jinx's arms hung limp at her sides. She stared at Logan with something weak and pleading in her voice. Really? Of course, Logan said. And besides. He smiled and lightly patted her shoulder. I'm here. Then he looked toward Caitlyn and said quietly, that enforcer can't do anything here. All she can do is stand there and watch. Don't tense up. Don't be scared. This is our turf. Jinx nodded. Seeing her settle a little, Logan finally let out the breath he'd been holding. The sisters still had a gap between them, but at least the crack had started to mend. In the Twin Cities war, it was Caitlyn's appearance that pushed things over the edge. The fire lights took Six away, Jinx spiraled completely, and with Silco's talk therapy, she became someone who could point a gun at Six without hesitation. That kind of locked-in, impossible to reconcile setup made Logan think of Cyberpunk 2077 for a second, because if Yorinobu Arezaka could just pick up the phone and call V, how many disasters would never happen? In the end, it was the writer's fault. But now, there was still time. Because Logan had the script. Six could join the Spirit Blossom gang, stay with Jinx. And as for Caitlyn, this topside rich girl could go back safely. To be honest, after watching the show, it was impossible for Logan to have no fondness for Caitlyn. But from a Zaunite's perspective, Logan wouldn't like her. Kindness from someone above you was still a kind of charity pity handed down. Marson, Logan said. Yes, boss. Keep an eye on the enforcer. Don't hurt her, but don't let her wander either. Yes. Six opened her mouth like she wanted to protest, but when she met Jinx's eyes, she shut it again. Logan took Jinx's hand and looked at Six. Six. It's been a long time. Logan. Six bit her lip, then nodded. Yeah. It has. Come on. Logan tightened his grip gently. Let's talk. Let's say everything that needs to be said. Six took a deep breath and followed while Jinx, still holding Logan's hand, kept turning her head to look back at Six again and again. Okay, Six said quietly.
Additionally, if you would like to request novels and access my Google Drive where I have 200+ audiobooks, then you can join my Patreon. Link is also provided in the description.